right. What's up?
Hey, Ando, how's it going?
How are you?
Doing well?
Thank you for participating. This is episode 5 of Commander Talk Radio, where we interview a different World v World commander every week. Thus far, we've interviewed Thornton from SF, we've interviewed Dark Cloud from Pugs, we interviewed Beers from, Voodoo from Beers, and then we also interviewed Bullyfoot from Hate. So you are the 5th commander that we are interviewing. Next week we're interviewing Socks, the commander. We're interviewing the Socks commander, Squirrel from Socks.
Nice.
And then after that we have the Jade commander, and then after that we're actually going to interview a couple of female commanders who command on NA. So should be a good variety. We have enough commanders lined up for about Christmas time. But I appreciate you joining me, Riv. I know it was kind of last minute, but I
All good.
appreciate you scheduling it in.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
We've known each other for a long time,
Yeah, we have a lot of history.
a very long time. I'd say, what has it been? 6 years, 7 years, maybe at this point?
Yeah, I think so. It's like since like 2017. No,
Longer
before
than
then.
that,
It's like
longer than
six.
that.
It's like longer than that. It's like way longer.
2015, I think. 2015
Yeah,
or
15.
2014.
Yeah, so
Around
like
then.
once you guys transferred to TC, that was like around the time I had interacted with Mal prior to that for a couple years. So yeah, it's been a long while.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting talking about that, like mentioning that stuff because like I don't know, like there's gonna be a lot of old farts like us around, but whenever I talk about this stuff, like there are people like, what are you talking about? It's like the weirdest like hobby drama stuff.
There was a
The-
lot of drama. Were you around? Did you play during Orbs? You played from release,
yes,
Rip? You played during
I did
Orbs
play
then.
some release, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so you
yeah,
remember the glory days of Orbs then?
I do, but at that time, Flux was like a small Havoc guild, and I knew about orbs and stuff like that, but I didn't do like huge fight manding or pug manding at that time. So
Have you always been the leader of Flux?
yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, all like for 9 out of 10 years. So Flux has been around for 10 years. And we started in we played Rift. Is when the guild was started. It started by a council of like 6 or 7 leaders who co-ran the guild together. And then I joined in as a member, and then within a year I became an officer. And then when Guild Wars 2 came out, I just wanted to take charge in playing, leading the charge in that game. And so, because we played multiple games at that time, and then that's when I started really leading Flux and running it. And we both, at that time, it was like a hybrid guild. It's like PvE and World vs. World. These days, it's just World vs. World.
What server did you play on in Rift? Did you play against us?
We played in Shadefallen,
Oh,
so it
okay.
was like the
You
RP
never. Yeah,
server or
yeah, yeah.
something.
So you did
Yeah,
play against us.
Sh yeah, Shadefallen and Fabelight is where we
Okay.
were, and we did PV raids. It's
Right.
25, 40, yeah.
25, yeah, 25 minutes. Raids weren't bad in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, it
Not
was
too
like
shabby.
that like Dwarven one was like the Destroyer Guilds. That one like just like whenever people couldn't beat that, they just guilds fell apart.
Yeah, that was the one that just released at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, it was fun, fun little raid dungeon though.
Yeah, it was.
So let's talk about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, uh, for me, like, I've been playing games for a very long time. Very played a lot of MMOs, all pretty much everything under the sun. I started playing Ultima Online back when that was out. I was on the Siege Perilous server, so I did a lot of PvPing over there. For people old enough to remember that game. And then, I played other MMOs, jumped around, where it was in like some top guilds that, would burn people out. So I was in a guild in WoW that got the first Thunder Fury on it and stuff, and like all these other crazy stuff, basically. So I just jumped around and won. I was very competitive. I played Guild Wars 1, did, PvP there as well. And yeah, so I played a lot of games, and then I played, I love all types of genres, play shooters and stuff too.
So you're a gamer. It's
Yep.
fair to describe you as a gamer, and you'll be
Yeah.
a gamer for life.
Kind of. I've gotten a little
you'll be in
more.
your retirement community gaming. Just be
Yeah, I'll
honest with
probably be
us.
sitting there, but I'll be in my recliners playing
Okay.
games. Some old, but I mean, like these days I play games a little less. Like Guild Wars 2 is pretty much most of my time gaming. I occasionally play some FPSs time to time, but to keep reflexes sharp. But aside from that, not much else.
Okay. And I'm asking all the commanders, and we're doing this to take a poll, because we found that all except one of the commanders thus far are in executive, managerial, supervisory positions IRL. Do you want to share what you do IRL, or can you at bare minimum
Yeah,
say if you are in a supervisory, managerial, executive position?
I'm in like a not exactly a management role. I'm a software engineer, senior software engineer. So I do lead take charge on a team.
Okay.
But in my past, I've run groups and organizations and clubs and so forth. So I'm familiar with that. And having uh, been in leadership roles in guilds a long time, I've done leadership stuff too.
So we're
So
four
it's
for five, believe it or not. And
wow.
the fifth one that wasn't in a supervisory, executive, or managerial position, it's because he was in college.
Hmm.
But even though he was in college, he was in student government, so it's still some type of leadership. So if you count that, we're five for five. Where the commanders I've interviewed thus far are all leaders, quote unquote leaders in whatever job, career, profession they do IRL as well.
Yeah,
Interesting little stat.
I think you're gonna find that a huge percentage of people who command are in those kinds of roles. There because of a lot of commanders I've met in the past, and like I've gotten to know them personally. They're usually in some kind of managerial or have some kind of management experience. And also it comes the sometimes comes with the territory, because sometimes they're running their own guild, and so therefore there's management experience there within running a guild as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But it's interesting that it draws that type of person, right? Like we have
Yeah.
yet to interview. I mean, given it's only five, but out of the five, four of them are very, very large, successful guilds. So, you know, all four of them, the people that main command for those guilds, and they're not all the guild leaders, right? They're not all guild
Mhm.
leaders. They're just their main commanders. All have executive positions IRL.
Yeah, it's like a crazy statistic.
I'm curious to
Yeah.
how long it stays. I'm really, really curious. I truly, truly am.
I have a hunch it's gonna be like a huge majority. That's my gut feeling, man.
80, 90%.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be 9%.
I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet. So you've been commanding since the beginning of the game,
Hmm.
since release. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep, that's correct. And again, like the way I started off doing, so when the game started, so it was during I got really sucked into the War World because I played the Guild Wars 2 betas, and I was like, I gotta play this game. And I was my first experience playing Guild Wars 2 was before it was released. I was at a PAX East convention, and Inet was there, and there was like a line. I waited 2 hours behind a person with really bad BO to play the game.
Wait, hold on, hold on.
And
Let's take a step back there.
okay,
Now,
sure.
at one of these conventions, right, whether it be PAX or Comic Con or whatever, what percentage of individuals there would you say have bad BO? Or
A
is there
lot.
is there such a thing as good BO? Is it a just
No,
BO? Is it a
just
just
BO.
BO?
I think it was just a BO. I mean,
It's
some
just
people,
BO, right? Like
yeah, it's
there,
BO, man.
there's no such thing as good body odor, is it? There's no one just like sending off like sexual or sensual pheromones, are there? They're like, oh shit, this
I
guy,
mean, there's people who can
I
smell
gotta stay
nice, but
behind
it's
this
not.
guy for the rest of the convention, is there?
There's people who can smell nice, but that's not natural. It's like covered
Yeah,
up
so
by
that's not body odor
something.
though, right?
Well,
That's not
yeah,
body odor.
yeah,
That's like their cologne or perfume or something like that.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay,
So it
okay.
was, yeah. So
About 50, would you
anyway,
say 50%? You're gonna give them 50%?
I haven't been to a convention for years, so I think it's probably got to be like I'd say like 30, depending on
30%?
depending on how well ventilated the convention is.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. I think you're probably accurate there. You're probably accurate there. You might be giving them a little bit too much credit.
Yeah, I waited in line for 2 hours to play, and it was just the PvE thing. It was just like it was in darn fields, and the demo character is a thief. But I love the combat. I played other games, and I was like, man, this combat is so good. I can't wait to fight other players and then just see how that is. And I got a taste for it when the betas came out for Guild Wars 2, and there was like World Wars World. I was just like, I went on a random map, and there's just people didn't know what to, people, no one knew what to do. So it was just like people scrambling and fighting, and it was like this amazing chaotic thing. And I want to be like, I want to be a part of that and play in that. So when the game was finally released, I like wanted to start off forming a small group and trying to get in touch with the people on my server. At that time, Flux was on TC for several years. So and then so we started off doing Havoc and stuff like that because we were a small group at that time. And I, learned how to, do siege stuff and just like take things and stuff like that. But over time, I started getting a little, like an itch because like it wasn't enough. Like I was like, I was kind of tired also of like getting stomped on by larger guilds because like we run like five to 10 or something like that at that time. And I was like, what can I do to be a pugmander and learn how to, be good at commanding large groups? What do I need to do? So at that point, I decided to, I think it was like 1 or 2 years after, Guild Wars 2 was released, I decided to talk to large group commanders. And at that time, it was like, I think, Pink or it was Jaden from Pink, and it was like Traxian Cyan from Stun, and some folks from Dis at the time. And I would just go to each of those commanders and talk to them and learn like, okay, like what do I need to do? Like in order to like step up from becoming, this just hitting towers and camps to actually like running a group, right?
That's
And
That's interesting that you made that transition. Most guilds, they find it very challenging to transition from small to large.
yeah, it was like, well, it was like there was a bunch of like random things that happened to fire it off. Like it was not like a instantaneous process. It was like over a few years. Like there was a few other things that happened. Like when during that time, I want to say 20 I want to say like 2014 or something like that. The years are a bit blurred to me, but like, so TC went through multiple cycles of having, guilds leave, or so there'd be a big guild or a guild that would be dominant in terms of like all the people who wanted to play fight, style, big group Zerg fights. They would join a guild and they usually won, and it could be like Pink was the first one, and then there was Dis, and then there's Transcendent Veneration TV, and then the last, well, uh one I remember was like Fat Seals of the Guild. That was SPQR. And so I would follow him and I followed all those other commanders, and then I followed his group. And then I said, I want to learn from different people. Been learning from all these other commanders. I want to also learn from you, what, fight commanding and stuff like that. And then he tried to wine and dine me and tell me to leave my guild. He told me that I should leave my guild and join his at that time. And
And then you were
I
like,
sort
fuck you, and then you took his members and you made your guild bigger. Is that
no,
what you're about to
I
say?
didn't know. I didn't no, I did not do that.
Oh.
I did do I refused. I definitely did refuse because my guild I had run for
You're
years.
too nice to tell him to F off.
Yeah, no, I'm too nice. I said,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no." And then
I would have used the F bomb. You're too nice for that.
I restrain myself a lot. So, personally, when the mic's off, I might, say swear, but I don't do it often to my in front of my guild. They know me as being too nice. Um, but anyways, yeah, I was like, I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to go that route, and I decided, what do I need to, what can I do? It's hard because I'm competing with other guilds that have, bigger memberships. So what can I do? So I started some kind of weird initiative that eventually didn't work out in the end. Well, it kind of worked out in a different way. It was like a mini alliance before even alliances existed. So it was like called the Crossfield Initiative, and was like I formed like a mini alliance with like four other small guilds to try to form out under one tag, and we would um, popcorn command. We would basically each of the people who are interested in commanding would learn how to command as a unit together. So instead of like running 15, end up with like 35 or 40 people together between these small guilds. and I thought that would be a nice way to train different guilds, not only learn how to do fight commanding with a larger group, but also train other guilds that were smaller to learn that style and to make a success out of that. So we did a lot of crazy stuff for it. So it was like at that time, like the guilds that were involved were like I think Flux, Dis, Odin. Dis had shrunk at that time. Odin, Crit, and then there was an umbrella guild called TI, which is called Taking Initiative, and that was its own independent thing. And so, but that eventually fell apart. There was a few things that happened. One was, so this is where, so I'm not, again, I have no animosity towards anybody or anything. There's just getting to the, was it telling people about hobby drama stuff. But the main thing was we had, there in that time in the game, and you remember this, that squads didn't exist.
All right.
And so people had arranged parties and stuff like that. So we created a web app that allowed people to use the GW2 API to log into the app, and we could arrange parties beforehand and then assign them. And then there was a feature in there because we wanted people to learn how to improve. There's a feature in there that you could enable to inspect people's gear. Just because we had known that some people might be running at that time blues and green gear, and it's because not performing because of that reason. There's no DPS meter at that time, so like one thing you could probably fix is getting people geared up. But one guild really got angry at it and felt that was not like something, not a breach of trust. It's like, how dare you have this feature even though we didn't have it enabled, and then they left. And then the other guilds decided to over time leave because they felt like they were losing their identity. Uh, because working under one umbrella, they felt like they weren't doing their own individual thing, and they felt then later on didn't feel like big group fighting was not for them, and they started going one by one, and they only left at that point Flux and Dis. And after that, then Dis having a lower membership merged into Flux. So Flux absorbed Dis at that time. And for any of the history buffs out there, you're like, oh, Dis still exists or something, and they reformed years later.
Typical
But
blob guild, just absorbing all the smaller guilds and not giving them a
there's gonna be
chance.
people.
Just you just go from server to server and just eat up all these small guilds and take massive numbers into your own guild. All right,
It sounds like
all
that comes from
right,
experience. Is there someone saying that to you, Indo?
dude. I get blamed about that all the fucking time. They seem to think. How I have alts everywhere, like commander alts, and I just like to pugman, right? Just for the challenge. People seem to think that that's like I'm there to recruit like off their server, but if you actually look back historically, that I don't spam map or team chat recruiting. Like
Um,
people come, they come. If not, whatever.
it's Yeah, I agree with you. There. It's a lot of
So some
it's
crazy paranoia. That's some real
yeah.
paranoia though.
I mean, it's like it's a lot of it's organic. Like over time, as a commander, you build up a reputation and you win fights. People want to naturally follow you, and so you just gravitate to you. And if your guild's big, people want to join your guild more. So, and they just whisper you and they join. And they could come from anywhere. They come from other guilds, leave their own guilds and stuff like that. It's not like a forcible, I went to somebody and demanded they quit. Like that's not how, at least that's not how I roll, but that's how things seem to come most kind of naturally. But
It's
anyways,
weird though.
yeah.
Like the amount of times that I get accused of like taking people, but I don't recruit. Like bottom line is I just don't recruit. It is what
Hmm.
it is. Like even OP, I don't actively recruit for people. Like people join like daily, but I don't actively recruit at all.
Yeah, there's anything for Flux. We don't advertise. Like we actually don't have any advertised in the SOR Discord or anything like that. It's all word of mouth. It's usually like somebody's friend wants to join, or somebody whispers me during a raid. They might have followed me, or any of our commanders, and wanted to join Flux, and that's where they usually
Right.
enter in. Is never a heavy recruitment measure. We did that before, maybe when we were smaller, but in the past a couple years, we don't do any work on recruitment. It just naturally happens. So, but anyways, like to finish quickly up about that thing. So that thing fell apart, and Flux became like 30, 30, 35 at that point, after the merger with Dis, and then the so at that time, TC had done multiple collapses of their server, and at that point, I had contacted. This is where I kind of like got in touch with you and Mal. Was like I contacted him because he had run that. So anybody who is a history buff, servers used to have councils or some kind of organization. These days, they're gone. So, but so anyways, like Mao that had run server Blackgate's console before, and I wanted advice, and also learned more about fight commanding beyond my server, and so that's where I got in touch with him and you guys with TW and Gun Squad and the rest, and eventually you guys came over to TC, and that's when I learned a lot more about fight commanding, and I got you helped me and Silver and Mal and Haru from Gun Squad, and that's where I learned a lot of
That was
stuff.
around the same time Haru actually started commanding.
Yeah.
Haru was actually part of TW originally, and then he wanted
Hmm.
to do GVGs, and we were falling out of GVGs. So Haru actually like asked me a lot for help on commanding stuff like that. But
Nice.
definitely interesting history for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like a really formative time because I just like, it's weird because like talk to my commanders I'm training in Flux, and we've seen they have been, some of them have been around since the beginning too, and they have old footage of me, and it's weird to watch really old footage and see where I started. I'm like, wow, I'm making like 20 bad
How
moves.
many commanders do you guys have in Flux right now?
So four now.
So
Um,
you, the one I met like
yep.
the week and a half ago.
Yep.
Um,
So just so the one you met was Tegan, and
yeah, Tegan.
she's newer
Yeah,
in Fight Command. She's has commanded Havoc before, for other guilds, but now she's learning big group commanding. So she's
nice.
only done like five
Yeah,
times so
she's pretty
far.
good. She's pretty good.
Yeah, she's growing fast. And then
Yeah.
there's Lynn, who's also new to large group commanding, and then there's Sarathan, who is pretty much as experienced as I am, and he doesn't command as much, but he's very experienced and confident. He's played under different guilds before, so but yeah, we have four commanders now.
Okay, interesting. And what class do you drive on for
I
everyone?
drive on Spellbreaker.
You're the first spellbreaker driver, except yeah, you're the first. You main spellbreaker though, right?
Yes, I mean
Bullyfoot
Spellbreaker.
sometimes drives on spellbreaker, but you main it. You don't drive on
Yeah.
anything else.
I have driven other things. In during HOT, I drove on core guard, and then
Nowadays, though, pure
oh,
spellbreaker.
nowadays no, I have Spellbreaker.
Well,
I have
why do you drive on
experimented.
spellbreaker?
It's
What make
because
what do you love about spellbreaker so much that you're like, this is my jam?
I love going ham, but I also it's also a necessity thing because I have commanded on Chronomancer before, but I need to keep the dome orders in sync, and being the Spellbreaker commander allows you to help sync them up better within the squad because we run several Spellbreakers, and so I get to work in tandem with them. And then the on top of that, it also is like a good anti-pin snipe profession because you have a lot of passives that prevent you from getting one shot. So that's the reason why. I also like the gameplay. I've played Warrior since being in the game, and I always loved it. And then I was sad during HOT when Warrior was not meta, and I didn't play Guard at that time. So, um, but yeah, I really enjoy the gameplay and of Warrior. It's like a simple thing. It's a simple profession, but it's like if you're really good at mastering movement and understanding it, like you're really good. You show off that you're gonna be really good at it. So,
You haven't
yeah.
found that warrior limits your group's overall ability to take range hits?
Nope. No, I I play on, so I'm not limited. So I actually have played multiple professions off, out of our raid nights and stuff like that. I played Ellie before. Ellie before. I know, understand. I played Rev and all basically any other profession. I enjoy playing any like both heal, DPS, and support. So I've experimented with all of them. So I have a good idea of what they need, and what they need coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
So range attacks, pulls, and spikes, I coordinate those just fine, and I can call them out. I coordinated pulls, coordinated CC, range, and so it's not a problem. I might as a commander to be more twiddling my thumbs in terms of like what skills I'm using, but I'm still coordinating like all the other abilities from all the other professions just fine.
Hmm. Okay.
But yeah, so like because I will still call for mesmer pulls. I'll call like get ready for super speed. All the typical things you hear commanders say. I'll do the same thing.
Right.
Um,
And what made you decide to, just command generally? It's just, you've always wanted to?
it was like one of the few
Did you
things
drive? Did you drive in your previous games?
in my previous what?
Did you drive in the previous games you played?
I have led like so like
Like,
but
did
mostly
you
a
in like
CD.
when you played
Yeah,
WoW or Rift or
yeah.
anything like that? Did you generally?
Yeah, I would lead groups and stuff like that. So I lead or I would coordinate a raid or I would do a PvP thing together on a team. I've always been a team player, so I always was either supporting somebody who was leading or being in the leadership seat. So yeah, so it's just like a thing I don't do. The main thing for commanding though is I feel for Guild Wars 2 specifically, it's like one of the few things in this game that I feel that are truly really challenging, and it fills that itch because um like just playing is not enough or like playing as a player like there's skill level, there's definitely skill there and stuff like that, but I feel commanding is like one of the higher levels of like trying to do multiple things at once, and I feel I'm very competitive, so like I feel like that's one of the things that really amp up like my skill, and that's why I really enjoy commanding.
Right. And just so everyone knows, what server do you guys play on? I don't think I
We're on
asked.
Sanctum of Raw.
How long have you been there now?
Since 2018, I think.
Okay, so
So
3 years.
yeah, so we left TC. There was a time where TC was in an endless matchup between Blockade and Mag for about a year before one up, one down, and many guilds left at around that time. And then there was only two large guilds left, and that was like CERN and Flux. And then I was getting so burned out at that time, and I just wanted to go on a server that's more active. And actually, I had more and our commanders to talk to, so we picked JQ and we went to JQ. And we were there for a year until the majority of JQ guilds had agreed to go to SOR. And we're like, we just came here. It's like, but I became good friends with Thornton and a whole bunch of other commanders on that server. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be the only guild left on the server again, so we'll go to SOR. And then we've been there ever since. So we've been on SOR for 3 years.
Thorn's a funny dude. He was
Yeah,
fun to
he's a
interview.
really funny dude.
Yeah.
He has people like to make fun of him because he's like a big meme lord, but he has a big heart. Don't tell
Hey,
him.
he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He's a
He's a
good
good
guy.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I worked with him for a long time, and I trust that guy. So, he's really good. But yeah,
And
well, yeah.
how
Go
many
ahead.
how many people does Flux usually run? I know, but tell the folks how many you guys usually run.
50. So we have full 50 squad all every night.
50-50 every night without
Every
fail.
night.
Without
Yeah, every
fail.
night. Yeah, without so people are like always crazy. I mean, being a big guild, you get a lot of flack for that, but it is very rare to have a guild run 50-50 on comms with all 50 on comms, every time we have a raid night. And a lot of that is a testament to like the people love to play with each other in Flux. Like they really enjoy each other's company, and so they like want to whenever like a raid night happens, they want to play. Like they just want to play. And then on top of that, they have fun with all of myself and the different other Flux commanders commanding. So that's why like it's always large, and we always have people. We had to refuse a lot every time people want to join. We had to decline because we're we're having a cap so all the time. So we don't want to have people left out out of the squad. So that's why we don't actively recruit. So yeah, 50 out of 50.
You guys run meta, of course.
Yes.
Okay. And how many days do you guys run?
4 times a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And
Monday,
then
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That's a good raid schedule. That's a healthy raid
yeah.
schedule. Is it a different commander every day, or is it like you take
Yeah.
two and then the other ones rotate the other two?
So for a long time it was me all the time, but now it's I only do Mondays and Fridays now, and Tegan will take Wednesdays and Lynn will take Saturdays. And Sarathon will he'll be pinch hitter, and he'll do a night if some people can't make it, or if he wants to command. So yeah, so that's usually the schedule. And sometimes I'll be on and we'll trade off depending on the situation and such.
You
So
guys have enough players to do a sidecar on top of your 50, or is it usually 50 is
no,
a...
it's like there's an over some there might be at rare occasions an overflow squad, so it might be like 5 to 10 people if like a lot of people show up, but generally it's like perfect 50 or maybe one or two past 50. So we don't have enough to like fill a 30-man group outside of that. I don't have the intention of doing that kind of thing. That's too much. I feel if we had that, it would shake up the cohesiveness of the guild. So yeah,
And who does your theory crafting in Flux? Or do you guys use just public builds and stuff?
it's a combo. So I coordinate most of the composition as well as most of the builds. I'll be the last stamp of approval. But we have people who are class leads that are really good at their professions, and they will help train members playing those professions. And a lot of them play multiple, so they'll give me ideas. And I also we have technically a secret weapon, but it's other guilds that friends of us know about it. It's like we have our own. So I know you're already aware of like DPS reports and in guild that's you put their DPS logs in and you see stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own log reader that actually reads the enemy as well and shows you the composition as well as like the skills they use and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
you can
Arc
actually,
DPS does that. Yeah,
it does, yeah,
yeah.
but it has like a good layout that you actually can like investigate more. So we've reverse engineered every time we fight a group that we might have not like seen something before. We look at their comp and we can reverse engineer and a rough idea of what their build might be. And so if there's like a G group that runs something different, then we know a little bit of like, okay, that's what we're get up against, and then we'll reverse engineer the build. So when some groups were trying out like the MOB druids for a while, we got that really early and then incorporated that into our build ourselves, and then we did other experiments and other things time to time. But we'll change up our composition every few months depending on like who we fight against. Like last time we had a major shakeup was last time we actually fought you a year ago, fought OP, because we scrimmed with you and we like lost every fight. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I need to look at what's wrong and then go over the entire composition, the builds, and then reform it in a way that makes that work against different particular groups in your style.
What was
So,
wrong a year ago? What did you change up?
we had a lack of CC, so it was
Mm.
like so it was mesmers. So two things that were not at that time a year ago were lacking were revenants and mesmers. We only had like one or two chronomancers at a time, and we had like very little revs. And so we changed it up where revs are a very integral part of the comp. They're like almost in every party, and then there's 3 to 4 mesmer chronomancers in the party for CC, and then that enables us to do a lot of more long range engage and also kite and do hard CC on groups, so and pulls. So those are things that we changed up that really made it a lot better. And the last, you fought us like not too long ago, and I mean, it was a lot more. I felt like I would go more toe to toe during that time against you guys and other groups. So, but still, there's always changes. We did another adjustment just recently.
Hmm. So speaking of, if you were to have a rival or arch nemesis, either now or in the past, who would it be?
We don't. So
Or it could be,
yeah,
someone you really enjoy fighting. You think it's a great fight, competitive fight, a hard fight. It can be in
so
any one of those three forms.
yeah, the groups I enjoy fighting the most are other comparable large groups. So OP, your group is one. I enjoy fighting Jade because they're also really big.
Those guys
Pain.
actually, believe it or not, those guys fight nonstop. Those
They
Jade
do.
guys.
We actually fought them this matchup. Like there was a Monday night. They actually whispered us and wanted to fight us all night, and we fought them like
How'd
on
you guys
Sapphire.
do?
And we won every
All,
fight.
all of them. They're
I
coming
don't
up
think it
though.
was one we
Their
lost. We
their
get 8-0.
commander follow me for bags. He's a nice guy though. He's a good
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
He's a good dude.
And they're all. I played with them before back on with JQ, and they're all nice people. The original one of the original leaders, Blunt, I was good friends with. So they're all good people, and I enjoy fighting them because like their particular compositions are really interesting, and it has weaknesses, but if any group doesn't know about it, like it can really punish you. So it's really fun fighting against them. I enjoyed fighting against Bane because they're big too.
Has
Pugs is
Bane
another
has
group.
Bane grown,
I haven't
or
fought them for a long time, so I
'cause
don't
they actually
know.
in the middle they shrunk when they stopped doing
Really?
their like they used to run their Zerk warriors if you remember,
Oh, yeah, the
and
Zerg
then
Warriors. That's right.
they trimmed it down, and then they stopped running the Zerk warriors, and then
Yeah, they
allegedly they
could.
started running their Zerk warriors again and started beefing back up
Oh,
again. So it's been a
I
while since
I
I fought them, but I think in their prime, Bane was running like their 45, 50
yeah.
man with like 7 or 8 Zerks in there.
Yeah, I enjoyed fighting them. Again, we haven't fought them in a long time, but I always enjoyed fighting them, especially when they're big like that. Pugs is in our group. I'd like to fight. I'm good with friends. Talked before with Gary X and Cloud. They were all both nice, wholesome people, and always been always in the spirit of fighting and stuff. So I enjoy fighting all those groups. I don't. There's no one I really hate in this game at all. Like at this point, I've no. Everyone knows each other, and it's everything historical is just ancient and just it's a game. So it's like not really. But so it's just the point of it's just to have fun and have good fights. Really, at this point.
So who would you say if you had to pick someone? Who's your least favorite commander? Who's been the most toxic to you? You can answer this question two ways, or you could answer it both ways. Either who is your least favorite commander because they're actually toxic, or who is your least favorite commander to fight against.
So I'll only lay down hints because I don't want to give the person credit and attention, because they'll probably come back to the game. So, but there is definitely one person that no, it's not like a violent fights. It's just more personal. That's all. So I'll just lay it as that. So it's just more personal.
Okay.
But some yeah, but yeah, but there's again, I don't have any animosity towards anybody or
You want to
anyone.
tell us what guild, and then we'll figure it out.
Uh, there's a hint with about when I talked about the history of Flux. So I'll just say that.
Okay, somewhere in the history of Flux.
Yeah, the history of
Hmm.
Flux and what I talked about during this interview.
Okay. I still have
So
no
there we
idea,
go.
but
If any sorry, if any people in chat can guess, I'll see if you're right or not if you mention it.
okay. So, what are your thoughts on the direction ANET is taking World v World? But
I
like in
listened.
thus far, what they've stated, just so everyone is aware,
Yeah,
the alliances, of course, we're all aware of that, and then they also said they're gonna just after alliances, they're gonna work on rewards and try to
yeah.
make rewards better.
So I think it's
Is
what
that
they're doing
enough? Should they
now.
be doing more?
I mean, I always would say they should do a lot more, but they, depending on their manpower is mainly on the expansion and other stuff too. So, but what they're doing now is definitely a step in the right direction. What Grouch has been doing outreach. That's been nice, and him and Carl joined in one of our raids, so a few weeks ago, and that was really fun and a real treat for the guild. And it was really nice to at least see them be communicative with the community and like say, hey, like we've not been paying attention to this game mode, but we're starting to talk about it and do stuff now. I think that's a big step because before it'd just be just radio silence or it's on the table and that's it. I rather would them be honest and say it's not on the table, and because that way, you know. But I know maybe business wise this might not be a good thing to say or PR wise.
No, fuck
But
that. Like, I mean, as long as you're communicating with your customer base,
oh
good
yeah,
and or bad, I think it's an overall good thing. Like, yeah, the last beta, was a bopper, fine,
Yeah,
but
but I mean, like, but
they communicated why it was a bopper, what they're doing
yeah,
differently in the next one. So, a lot of people were pissed off and like they just rage quit to New World, but long as
I think
they're
that's unreasonable.
communicating, yeah, it's 100% unreasonable. People are just like what? It's a
I
completely
mean,
different system. Like have some patience. But had that happened and we didn't hear from Grouch, then I'd be disappointed because then
yeah,
I'd be like history's repeating itself.
I mean,
But
he
we're
said,
hearing from
yeah.
Grouch, consistently, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a very good thing. I agree with you on that. And 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 basically anything they can do to keep in touch and be more communicative in general for the game is just a plus in my book because I felt that was something that ANET had historically lacked. They always acted like Apple, where they'd be like never tell you what's going on until the day they release something, and I feel like in most MMOs, every other MMO, are way communicative and more so than ANET. Like you look at even games that are not even MMOs, like say Warframe, and they like have streams every couple days and talk about the game all the time. Like that's what I want for Guild Wars 2. I want them to be super hyper engaged. I know they're heads down developing right now the expansion and stuff, but post expansion, I want them to be really engaged with the community and keep talking. I think that's super helpful, and not just like art streams and stuff. I want them to like really like play the game alongside with people in different game modes, especially World vs. World, and is really engaged with the community. And I think that's really important. And this, like I said, the things that Grouch's team are doing is definitely a solid step, and that needs to, they have to keep continuing on that front. And I say good job on that, and just keep doing it. So for the other stuff, like the direction, like focus on airline Wheelers World, I'm glad that alliances are being addressed. I know they did the update and they said they're targeting the 12th of November, and I'm looking forward to that. For my group, my guild, and the alliance we're in. We're psyched, to play together. There's some guilds that are not in SOR that we're allied with, and will be the first time we'll coordinate together and really get a feel for how things work, and it'll also change up like the mode because like I'm really you said in your previous interviews with our commanders that like the balance is out of whack, right? So because right now like SOR just because of coverage, we're stuck in tier 4 basically. Like we dropped down tier 4 and be stuck in there because we just don't have, EU or any other thing that can bring us back up. And their servers we're fighting against like just have more guilds running at on multiple maps, and that's just a negative, right? You want to go bounce around and have fight different types of groups and stuff like that to keep it mix it up and have fun. And I don't care too much about winning or losing in terms of like PPT or score, but I do care about having very fun and different various matchups, and I think that's important. So, and they said, like they got to like what 2%
Two
difference. That's really
percent.
impressive. That's really impressive. So let's see when it actually kicks off, and fingers crossed everything works. How the matchups are going to be and how enjoyable those are going to be, and I look forward to that. And definitely rewards is another one they need to look at. I know I'm glad they're doing some minor changes to the pip stuff, but I definitely think there should be more. Definitely needs to be more mechanics, I feel, to mix up. And, so definitely stuff about giving more reasons for people to fight or locations to fight across maps. Um,
Bring back orbs, am I right?
yeah,
Bring back
yeah,
orbs.
orbs, or maybe like
The King of the
there's
Hill event
multiple,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah, or maybe like this keep or this area has some bonus and you have to fight over it, and there's a bonus score, bonus rewards if you take the keep, or if you're a defender and you defend the keep and you successfully fend off attacks, you'll get a bonus, something like that. It may be to prevent if you want to bring back the orb, you can maybe make it like to prevent teleport hacking, you would make it like an escort event, kind of.
Right.
And you would have to, it's like not a doyak per se, but you would have to, like, it's like walking a payload. If you play like Team Fortress or Overwatch, is like you would have to escort a payload and fight with it to bring it to an objective and then empower the objective. I think that would be another way of doing it. I do miss the Dino event. I know it was busted because of the lag and stuff like that, but I think there could be a better version of that minus the lag. You could do a mini version of it that like you have to deal with multiple objectives instead of just one central thing in the middle of the map. Maybe you had to fight on two sides of Desert BL, and if and then you get a benefit if you get claim both, that kind of thing that it allows you multiple groups to fight on the map. over different objectives. Like there's many ways you can mix it up. And I would also like uh, a third BL, aside from Alpine does. I know a lot of people are very preferential to Alpine, but I want to mix up the kinds of variety of fights. There's only so many times you fight on the same choke. That's you want to fight on different elevations and objectives. I prefer, I know there's gonna be, I'm gonna be a little heretical, and I enjoy parts of Red BL, like big parts of it, like the keep fights and stuff like that. I don't think the open areas need work, but I feel like the keeps are really good in terms of the fights because you fight on elevation. Some of my most fun fights I've had, were like flying above and below people and working around those things and having map knowledge. I think that's a rare thing, for commanders to like have map knowledge and use that to outsmart an opponent. Um, because most of the time people fight an open field. So I think like those things would be helpful. There also maybe can be like certain objectives that change the nature of the fight once a fight is engaged in it. So take Earth Keep, for example, is one I feel like one of the most fun places to fight in. Some people will think it's annoying on Red BL, but when you engage the Lord, the rock walls come up, and that is also a detriment to both the enemy squad as well as you, because the rock walls can be a barrier for preventing movement throughout the area, and then you got to fight around the ring. And I feel like it'd be interesting if the Lord wasn't really like that strong, but in terms of like hurting people or anything, but it would change the nature of the fight once a fight is engaged in the area. So walls would come up or certain obstacles would come up, and they would change during the fight. So the commander would have to use their tactics, their immediate on the spot tactics to change up how they engage another enemy. I think that's important.
Isn't that basically what each lord is on the red BL though, right? That's kind
Yeah,
of, you just
yeah.
want to expand on that, like
Yeah,
the
I want to
walls
expand on it a
popping
little bit.
up and like
Maybe
the
maybe make it less on some. I don't like. I feel air is the worst one out of the three because all it has a donut, and that just locks people in. Doesn't make for good engage, and people generally avoid that room when they fight. But I think like something similar to Earthkeep, where the Lord is not too much of a threat, but it's a lot of its abilities are very avoidable, and people have to take mental note. I think that is. I know people are be like, I don't want PVE in my Guild Wars 2, but I think like making things more dynamic makes fights more interesting. Because like I said, there's only so many times you fight on a bridge or fight in a field, and that's the same thing over and over again. I want something a little bit more. That's just me. I just want something a little bit more dynamic in a fight, and really bring up the commander skill, thinking on the fly, more into light. I think that would be interesting. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there should be, even if like you're going into super details, so like and I dig it to be honest with you, but I think even if they did like just basics as putting like a sub objective on every map, like
Hmm.
the sub objective for EBG is SMC, you know what I mean? Like if they put a sub objective on, whether it's in the form of orbs or whether it's in the form of a dinosaur-like event with better execution, King of the Hill, even like some type of sandbox event where it's an
Yeah,
empty map, and as you run more supplies, it starts building your corner up, and whoever builds it, the fastest, while fighting other players, running supplies, shit like that. It could be
yeah,
anything really, but the fact of the matter is, yeah, you have two Alpine BLs and one Desert BL, but for all intents and purposes, they're all the same, right?
yeah. They're
There's
very much
nothing to fight.
similar.
There's nothing to fight over except keeps and gates and whatever the fuck, and it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. I agree. And yeah, I think like mixing it up and maybe having like because it's like if you play, like in for a lot of us who play Wars World, like we don't play as much PVE, but like in PVE, the open world events, like stuff happens all the time, and like an event gets triggered because players are on it and stuff like that. So I feel like maybe certain kind of like if enough players show up in the area, something gets triggered in a bonus event that either generates more rewards or score or something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that makes a fight. I think that's really helpful, and that would make the mode more dynamic and fun.
I mean,
Because
even at basic, if they did your idea where, like, a random keep on a map is selected every hour, and
yep,
that's like a bonus keep, or like fucking call it whatever you want. Fuck, call it
yeah,
bonus keep. Who cares, right? And then whoever takes that keep and or defends it, or maybe take it. Maybe defend might not make the right thing, but take it. So the other two enemies are forced to attack it. Then they get X amount of PPT. something like
Yep.
that, or create like a hot zone or a hot map. This hot map has bonus PPT for like the next 30 minutes, and everyone
Yeah.
just floods into it and fights over it, whatever it is. I think just creating something dynamic, some type of dynamic gameplay, will make this game more fun and interesting.
Yeah, I think there's needs to be stuff that kind of like engages the player and also makes them that funnels them. Like, as I think like because we see
There's too many PvDor guilds and players where they
there
just,
is.
they're just interested in PvDoring or PPTing,
Yeah,
right? And
there's
there's
I'm just like
guilds
yeah.
guilds that are built exclusively around.
Oh yeah, yeah, there is.
We all know who I'm
But
talking about right now.
yeah, I knew. Yeah, like Doc and other groups that every is like I feel like every stream people mention them, but there's the guilds that have reputations for just doing just PPT stuff like Air and Doc and such. So but the main thing is like yeah, like making things more dynamic, and I also think that um like I said, like giving more people reasons to play, also like making people engaged so they learn the game mode as well, because like right now, like the game mode always needs new blood, and the tough part about the onboarding process is really at this point it's like join your server's voice chat or join a guild. And now, well, there should be more ways to funnel people into those things like joining a guild and stuff like that, but on top of that, there's not much in the game that kind of like naturally navigates a player to objectives depending on the map design. I feel that the only good place that has that is maybe EBG, because everything leads to SMC and all the fights naturally lead there.
All right.
But all the other maps like don't, like Alpine, for example, because it used to be on the orb, the map is shaped around the orb, and so therefore it doesn't feel like an efficient map anymore because of that. And Desert BL, the Oasis is huge is because it had that dinosaur event,
Mm-hmm.
and so those maps weren't adjusted after those removal of those events. I feel like the placement of the objectives could be better, to create more fights, but also like dynamic events, also creating those things too. So that's something that I feel can be, immediate improvement on the game mode, is doing that and keeping people engaged in natural ways. Not having to wait for a commander tag to, show up, because there's a lot of servers out there that, are fairly sometimes dead, and there's until someone puts up the tag and shows up and hey, follow me, people start flocking. But like there's not many servers that do, like form up kind of a cloud mentality or do things like, I know Mag is one that does that, but only on EBG. And like they don't, like there needs to be more mechanics at play that kind of lead people, funnel people into channels to fight and add conflict into the game. And I think that needs to be added, so to make it more fun, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, the game is super dependent on Pugmanders right now, and I don't think another problem, quite frankly, is they're not developing new Pugmanders
It's
or
hard.
commanders. Period. Like I just, back in the day, used to have like each server used to have like maybe a dozen to 20, different commanders and Pugmanders. Nowadays, most servers have like one, two, three, four, maybe at most.
Hmm.
And there's not a lot of new ones coming up in the system. No one wants to do it. People that try just get a lot of hate generally in map and team
Yeah,
chat.
it's
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 it's tough. It's really tough because like to become a commander at this stage of the game, because the game has been out for a long time, and like who you're fighting against, right? You're fighting against a lot of people who have years of experience on you, so the skill ceiling is really high. I for my newer commanders, I praise them a lot, because like that's a tough job to like. I want to learn how to fight command. I don't know too much about it, but I want to really learn, and to go through that kind of uh, you know, not punishment per se, but like that, gauntlet of getting to that point of actually being, consistent, is a long path, because it's a skill that requires a lot of doing. And, what I try to do, running a big guild, is like trying to ease that process as much as possible. Like, because instead of having the issue of like them rallying and not having many people on their tag, I want the full force of the guild behind them. So every time they make a mistake, it's themselves. Like it's relating to them, and maybe their call outs and what they're doing, rather than like the squad comp being broken or other things. So they can hone in on those particular set of skills faster. But not every guild or every group or server has that benefit of of a lot of mentors, in
True.
a group to do that.
Yeah.
And so, that's a tough thing, and that's why there's a lack of pugmanders. And I respect anybody, regardless of their experience. Even if they're just starting out and maybe they're not no fight commander or whatever, or if they have a commander or whatever. Like that's just that requires guts.
Bullyfoot had the same mentality actually. That was one thing that stuck out to me that Bullyfoot said. He's like,
Yeah,
I don't care, who you are. If you're willing to command, you got my respect. And I think all of us older commanders have that mentality because number one, we've been doing it for so long, and we've been through like the goods and the bads. We've been through like the tough times. We've commanded,
yeah,
and lost, commanded and won, and we can appreciate, what another commander goes through. Um,
yeah.
I think the new generation, though, and maybe I'm off on this, but I don't think I am. I think your new generation of commanders and players don't really have an appreciation for the tag. It's kind of like expected,
Yeah,
and like you don't do it perfectly or you don't do it how they want, and like the criticism just fucking flows.
I understand that feeling, and I can certainly feel it at times in the past. Having pub manded, with less than optimal squad and stuff like that. Because I've had times when I was commanding back on TC, I would have like 30 core flux and the rest would be filled with pugs, and then you lose a. I mean, I think every commander has faced this situation where, you're managing the morale of your squad, and then suddenly like you lose a fight, and then like 20 people leave.
Mm.
And that's
Hmm.
like that's and like I never ever want anybody to face that situation, especially in my guilds, because I tell my guild, they all support each other, and I tell them like you got to support, even if someone's new, they got to fully give them your backup support 100%, because I never ever want anyone to experience that like I did, which is just having that morale drop, right? And it's like, oh God, like what am I doing wrong? And then have to doubt yourself. Like that, I don't want that to happen to anybody. And so, I want, I wish that players in general were more encouraging. There are times where, you might have disagreements. I understand that, people are very opinionated at times, especially when people run each other's guilds and stuff. But you got to understand the context that different people have different cultures, different guilds have their different ways of running. So you don't need to tell them exactly what to do. You can be suggestive and give them ideas, but don't force them. But definitely, like, there needs to be more encouragement and community around building up new commanders, you know. And I'm happy to, when people, there's some people that like want to command outside of Flux. They whispered me and like, I want to know more about commanding. And I was like, okay, like let me see where you're at and like give you some info to get you started. That's something, I'll extend that if you are a new commander, uh, and you see commanders on your server or elsewhere, like Indo here or myself or anybody, just contact us, And even if you're fighting against us at times, we're usually, most of us are open to talk to you and give you feedback, and constructive feedback. I'll mention this because this happened recently, but when one of my new commanders in Flux had fought OP, fought Indo, not too long ago, I think last week, and after the raid, she whispered him, DM'd him, and then they went over the footage, of her fighting, and Indo gave feedback and stuff. Like use that resource. Like people, don't be, for new commanders, don't be afraid of talking to other people and getting feedback from them, because most of the time they're pretty helpful. So, and that's actually my case too. When I was growing as a commander, like I just wanted to be a sponge and absorb as much as I can. So I want to learn from my enemies, because otherwise, how do I get better? If I'm in a box, I don't know anything new. So, well, that's me though. So,
No, I think I agree with you there. I think just sharing that knowledge increases competition, but that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like
yeah,
more people that want to get out there and fight and learn how to fight and improve and you know you get out there and brawl, that just increases your fun, right? So I had no problem. Like for me, I didn't think about it, and I was very transparent, sincere, and I gave her like my full what I would do if as if she were part of my guild. Like I didn't care that she was in Flux, right? I actually just
Yep.
wanted to help out a new fellow commander because the bond that binds us was that we're both commanders, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if she
Exactly.
improves and she enjoys, commanding and she commands Flux more, then that means that's just more consistent action for me to fight, right? So it behooves us all to make sure people improve in the game generally, right? Otherwise, you just have, quite frankly, what we have, or what is kind of happening on NA, where there's just not a lot of, there you have the Zerg guilds, right? You have the Flux, the SFs, the OPs, the Pugs,
Yep.
the Hates. You have all of us larger guilds that we kind of have our own little community together, and then that's kind of it if you really think about it, right? It's not like
Yeah.
yesteryear where there's guilds left, right, and center. I think you can count all the guilds. Let's even like take a look, right? So SF. Who else? We got SF. I'm looking at my commander list. Jade, actually, Jade is part of that crew. I'd say, you
Yep.
know, um, you guys, right? Us. Who else?
I mean, there's like I said, Pugs is
Hate,
one, and then
Pugs, right?
yep, and
Bane,
also
kind of.
EBG, Nick's Guilds
EBG,
is
yeah, but they run in that time zone where no one else kind of plays, so
that's true.
it's hard to really count them in. Like they by the time they're playing, everyone else is calling it. But yeah, they're
Yep.
huge. The Dust guys are actually really nice dudes. They play in that odd time zone pre NA though, but they're always a good fight.
You know, and
Um,
SOR like for SEA, Bana is definitely like a community because like and there's multiple SEA guilds on SOR, but Bana is definitely a good focal point. So there's a lot of community guilds. But to your point a bit that because of the stage of the game, that this late and servers have killed themselves over and over and over again, and people have transferred all what where most of the guilds that still currently exist are more like islands at this
right,
point, and they've
right.
had to because like they don't want to deal with the old school like hobby drama that would happen on servers and stuff like that. So they kind of like they're friends with the guilds that they're friends with, but beyond that, they don't really like build communities and stuff. I did that a little bit with SOR. Like working, but within the guilds, working with other guilds and like encouraging behavior within guilds and making friends with guild leaders. But you don't see that kind of activity in the heyday, like in the vanilla, like crazy, like alliance and stuff. That I think the most fun time I ever had in terms of like fights and crazy rivalries was when, uh, ONS, TW, Gun Squad, Flux was on our on TC, and also, but we were
The
against the counter alliance.
pre-alliances,
No,
the
there was pre-alliances, but well,
pre-alliances,
but there was the
yeah.
Rebel alliance, which was Grimaldi from BP and Zen Master. They went to Dragonbrand and they made a Reddit post about it, and there was like this huge, like rivalry where people were making propaganda posters for each other and stuff. And it was the most fun time I ever had because we were egging each other on, but not in a bad way, but it was just like we wanted to be each other. And it was just like the most fun, like a year or two of War was World during that time until everyone's just got burned out. And it was like old news by then. But I
Yeah.
personally think that was one of the most fun times I ever had.
I'm
And I
hoping
wish
that
for
that
that.
comes back with alliances. I really am. I really,
I
really
think
am.
in some aspect it would. I think like as long as there are diverse fights between guilds and mini groups that fight each other, and those matches change up, I think that will increase the. It won't immediately like create that environment, but it will create the ingredients for that environment. I think
L-
that's what I look forward to.
long as the competition spreads out, like hopefully there aren't any, and I'm sure there will be, but hopefully there aren't any super stack alliances. Like I think
I don't think
creating an
so.
alliance broadly based across time zones makes sense. But creating like a super stack alliance, and I'm not really talking about NA here.
No, no.
I'm actually kind of referring to C and OCX specifically. Like, long as people don't take that mentality where all the OCX just stack into one fucking alliance, or all the C just stack into one
Or even
fucking
like not
alliance.
even like time zone, like not having all the GBGers be in one guild.
I mean
Like
that shit is whack, and then they know it. Like they're stupid people. Like, and they've killed their own fucking competition. They killed their own action, and then they wonder why they get wrecked by EU GVGers. Like, well, obviously, if you have no one, if you don't fight against other competitive groups, then of course you're gonna get your shit pushed in. Like,
Yeah.
that's common sense. Like, but that's their own fucking doing. So they whine and complain, and they're gonna just run around being bored. Like, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why, like, a lot of the earlier scenes, like, there were multiple different guilds, GVG guilds and groups, because they wanted to fight each other and learn from each other. So, like, and I feel like it's a little sad state of affairs, because, like, even though that, I don't GVG, I have a respect for it because it is a completely different style and mentality that requires everyone to carry their weight.
right.
And so that is like another level, and I respect that. And I feel like that, that's something that kind of competition is definitely needed because when I fight groups like Dead and stuff, they give me a run for my money because like I see what a ceiling is, like, and as in like, okay, there's a lot to learn still, and there's still a lot I need to do in order to beat some of these groups. And
Well, I
I
mean,
want more of those.
yes, there's a lot to. It's good because one, it pushes your groups to the limits, and it's good because you can see the high end potential. But at the end of the day, none of those guys worked for it. All they did was just take all the remaining GVG players and stacked it on one server. Like, hey, let's fucking run together. To be honest, right? So
Yeah,
for them, you know, like the fights or whatever, because quite frankly, there's nothing else out there. There's not multiple GVG stacks. There's only one.
yep.
So, they're running around expecting good fights. Well, you're not necessarily going to get it
No.
because to have all these other guilds, especially the large guilds, catch up, you're going to be, you got the curve there. Like, it takes months upon months
Oh
upon
yeah.
months to get to that high competitive level. And by then, the next pack's out.
Yeah, and
The
and the thing is,
expectation isn't reasonable to
it
have
is
it,
not.
to have other guilds play at that level.
Yeah, and like for my guild, like I'll say it, like we're not like super hardcore. Like the good goal of my guild is to strike a good balance between like a regimented but casual group. So that runs comp and does like wants to improve, but we don't want to like drive ourselves insane. I don't want to do things like tryouts or anything like that. I respect anyone who does do that kind of thing. It is another level. But like to expect my group to fight on the level of a GVG group, that is impossible. That's not going to be possible unless I decide to completely change my guild and like axe people or something. Not that I'm going to do that, but saying like the requires a different mentality altogether and different culture, which is not aligned with my interests. So,
Yeah,
but
but that's
if
the
you,
thing,
yeah,
right? You need
yeah,
to. I I I don't think I can name a guild out there that's like that.
no,
I don't like. We're not gonna. OP's not gonna ask. Like we invite everyone and their fucking mother to join our guild. Like it doesn't matter. Like
yeah,
you ask to join, you get an invite. I don't see Flux axing. I don't see SF axing. Like a lot of these communities aren't gonna axe it, and all our
no,
communities have a bell curve in it. Like a majority of our players in the middle. We have a smaller group of players that are really really good. Probably take the be in a GVG category, like if you want to consider
yeah,
that. And then we have another smaller group of players at the tail end of that are just like, quite frankly, need a lot of fucking help and hand holding.
yeah, and
Um,
until yeah,
but
same, I
until
agree with
you've
you.
trimmed off the bottom spectrum of that, the way I look at it, numbers being equitable, your weakest player has to be better than their weakest player. And
Yep.
that's the way it is. At the end of the day, if your weakest player is better than their weakest player, then you have a chance. If your weakest player isn't better than their weakest player, then more likely than not they're gonna win. And
Exactly.
I don't see some of these larger guilds ever getting to that point. But at this
No,
point, they've all stacked on one server anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter.
exactly. And the main thing is like, from my again, my group is like a lot in your like your guild and our guild, it's like we're more focused on building more community. Like we care about
Communities, we're more
fighting community,
community
but we care
based.
about
Yeah,
community
yeah.
because like we wanted to make sure that we survive. We continue to not only play this game, but like I don't assume that Guild Wars 2 is going to shut down the main point, but it's like we want our communities to last forever. Your guild has lasted for multiple games, mine too. So I wanted to keep running my community, having my community existing, and because we're all like a family and friends, and we want to keep that going. So our my goals are a little different. So therefore, like we cannot so the point I know where you're getting at is basically have gone at was like say that the GBGers need to like spread to make more competition because otherwise like they're not going to get it from us. If they expect it from us, that's not where they're going to get.
Yeah, I
You're
mean
gonna
they
get
don't
like
need to. It's a
patty.
video game. They can do
Yeah,
whatever the fuck they want. But
yeah, yeah, they could. Yeah,
for them to form up and be like, "Yo, we're like we're gonna get good fights against anyone else." There's it's not like EU where there's multiple groups of players like that. They're gonna have to section themselves off. And now that they've literally all stacked on one server. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that wasn't the smartest fucking move.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, it happens. I think it's again, you have that kind of stuff happening because of the late stage of the game. Again, as if there's increase in competitiveness in the with alliances and more activity, I think there's more ingredients there to have bring back those aspects again, and
But even then,
seeing
I just don't see I don't see fight guilds forming up now. Like, and that's because of
it's
lack of
hard.
commanders, lack of players.
Yeah.
I see more community guilds being produced nowadays. I don't see a lot of GVG guilds being produced. I don't see a lot of fight guilds being produced. I think a large portion of this game and the players that play this game, it's heading in a more casual direction. Like, I guess
Yeah.
competitive casual, like large, super large communities that are playing the right builds, making the right groups, but they're not willing to take it to that ultra competitive level where they're just putting people on the chopping block.
I think so, and a lot of it's like I think it's because of the way GW. It's more like the way GW2 differentiates itself from the rest of the market. Where some MMOs are more hardcore and some are more about particular about certain things. Guild Wars 2 tries to create this kind of more like you can play this game and feel respected for your time and not have to burn yourself out, and then you can do multiple things in it. And I think they aim for that route real not that's a good route to go on because you don't want to be like you don't want to copy WoW, you don't want to copy whatever game. uh, but like I want to say though that yeah, the like the alliances and other stuff was not going to be. It'll be the base ingredients, but there's still going to be a lot more to go for ANET to add to encourage more of those behaviors, more of those GBG or those hardcore fight guilds. There needs to be more of those things to fire it off the ideas we put across today, or any interviews you have with canners or the community as a whole. Like those things need to be added more to encourage that. So it's a start, but there's a lot more to go. So like I said, I agree with you. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I hope that in the farther down the road that is more that's going to be more of an occurrence, but we'll see. But
You know what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to happen. But also, before I say this point, I'm going to say that GW2, in my opinion, is a game that's easy to learn, hard to master. It's
yeah,
very, very easy to learn this game, very, very hard to master this game. But that being said, here's how I think this is exactly how this game is going to go guild wise. Is now in post alliances. The GVG scene is more or less dead on NA at least. It's dead. All right. I don't
mhm,
see new GVG guilds forming. I don't see new fight guilds forming. What I do see happening is all the community based guilds are going to be brawling against each other more. And you know what it's going to come down to is which community based guild can elevate the overall level of their roster or their players for that night, because we all have
mm,
large fucking guilds. You don't get more often than not don't get the same players every night, so it's different. So I think it's going to be more competitive between the community based guilds like Hates, the SFs, the Fluxes, the OPs, the Pugs, the Jades, the Banes. All the community based guilds are all going to have our own little kind of like competition fight club kind of brawling mentality. But the
yep,
cool thing about it is, and which I hope doesn't change, and the GVGers kind of shit on their own fucking plates. They shit where they eat, and that's their own fucking fault. Hopefully, none of the community-based guilds get toxic with one another. Long as that doesn't
yep.
happen, we can increase the competitive level of all our gameplays, and also have competitions within our quote-unquote league, and keep that sustainable through the as long as we play GW2.
I think that's a pretty
Long as we don't let it get toxic.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment, and I think there certainly are you know uh, guilds or commanders that are more toxic, but I think the more vast majority or most of them are not. And as long as guilds encourage good behaviors, I think that they're going to see more of those more non-toxic competitive guilds because there's certainly quite a lot of them.
Yeah,
And
there's more community based guilds right now than they are fight guilds and GVG guilds,
yep,
without
yeah.
question. Hands
And I
down,
mean, again, yeah,
there's more community-based guilds out there fighting on a regular basis than there are GVG fight guilds out there fighting on a regular
100%.
basis.
Yeah, I
So
agree with you there.
right by that fact alone, the community-based guilds are gonna be here into the future.
Yeah,
And long as we
and it's more
maintain some
healthy.
respect between one another, we'll always have competition. Long as none of the community-based skills ally up together. And I don't think thus far everyone I've talked to, and I'll ask you this question towards the end, but thus far everyone I've talked to, none of the community-based skills are allying with one another. So we'll all be split up and spread out.
Yeah, yeah, for the most part, yeah. It's not because no one wants to, like, there's certainly guilds that want to fight other guilds, and they also don't want to overstack because otherwise they don't get what they want. So they don't get that kind of competitive enjoyment or those fights that they want. Because like, like, do you want to bring back some dumb version of the Titan Alliance? Like where everyone's stacking on overstacking on one
Yeah,
server.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not fun. That's the reason why it broke apart, was because there was nothing to fight and the queues were long and there's just not really fun. So, no one wants that. So, and eventually, things do equal itself out if things don't get competitive, because guilds will decide to, okay, I'm not going to play with this alliance anymore. And that's their positive of the potential of the alliance system, is that you're not so locked into it forever. You're basically a season or whatever, you might be in an alliance, but then like 2 months later or whatever, you can join another one or decide to leave that one and form new relationships with other guilds, and that's more free flowing. I think that's healthy for the game mode and the future of the game, for at least World vs. World and GW2. And I think that, like I said, I think having community-based guilds being more of the front are better because, again, they're less toxic and they last longer.
Agreed.
they,
Agreed.
they
Hundred
don't they don't
percent.
die.
100%.
I
There's
know
not a
some people.
single GVG guild that started this game that's still around today. Not one.
Like
Not
when I talk
one.
about guns, when I talk about Gun Squad, they're like, there's gonna be people in your chat to me like, who the heck's Gun Squad? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
or I do remember them, but it's like, but people are gonna be like, who remembers AG, who remembers other groups,
yeah.
like because they don't see them all the time. EP, Odinzu, great guy, awesome commander, awesome group. All these commanders I respect, and and I'm not shitting on any GVG guild or anything like that. I wish that they kept on playing, so I can fight them and learn from them. But the main thing is, like, I think it's good to have healthy communities and keep that going, encouraging each other to have these fun competitive behaviors and stuff like that, and that's important. I feel that's definitely something that's a key ingredient of the game going forward. And as long as your guilds like yours and mine and others exist, this game will still be
We
running.
need we need more.
And we
Honestly,
need
we need
more,
more
yes.
community-based guilds. We need a lot more community-based guilds.
Yeah, but for the long-term health of the game, definitely need more. So there needs to be, again, like I said, mechanics in place to help maybe encourage that or lead people to those kinds of things. Encourage activity across the board, because more activity means more, players, more things, more potential for that to happen. So I think, right, again, ANET, what ANET is doing is their focus is on the core, very baseline issues, because they have said before, we want to resolve the baseline issues before we can get all this other stuff. And I hope after resolving that, they keep on working with us to resolve the other stuff. Keep talking to us on the initiative, and also talking to other guild leaders, joining in on raids, seeing how the different cultures are and stuff like that. I think that's important, and is good for the long-term health of the game. So I really, applaud them for the effort they've been already doing, but I want them to keep on doing that and keep on, and keeping on making this healthy, because I love this game. Like, it is the only MMO I really play, often, and I've been stuck. Before this, I've been played multiple other MMOs, and this game has stuck for since the beginning. So that tells you a lot, as in, like, this game has something special. And I don't really have more. I don't really have a hate relationship with it. I really enjoy it, and so even the tough times. So, and I enjoy talking to characters like you and other folks in this game. And people, and on the server and other servers, there's always good people everywhere. So I really want this game to succeed, because it has special ingredients to be even more special and bigger than Final Fantasy, WoW, and stuff like that. I feel like there's a lot of potential there to be something really a really solid niche. Um, so yeah, and that's why I want that to keep on being encouraged and built up. So yeah, I agree with you.
It's gonna need consistent love from Mainnet though, to be
It
honest.
will, it will, and I hope they keep on being proving over and over again the consistency. So all of us commanders are open to talk. In it, like there's a lot of us that are really open to talk anytime.
You know
And
what I'm gonna do?
yeah,
One day, probably towards Christmas time, or just before the holidays, maybe a couple weeks before, maybe just before, depending on everyone's schedule. I'm gonna do a round table with all the previous commanders that I've interviewed up to that point. So we'll
nice.
have 9, 10 of us, and we'll have a nice round table. I think it'll be a really interesting conversation.
I think so too. I think
I
we
think I
really
think it'll be
interesting.
awesome. Like very rarely do commanders get together like this. At least not nowadays. Back in the day, people used to get together when there were like server councils and shit like that. All the commanders used to get together and chit chat and share tactics and strats and share stories and share war
But
stories and stuff like that. But not nowadays. Not
no,
nowadays.
no, no. There's parts of that I miss, and there's parts I don't. I don't
The
miss the bickering.
the drama, the drama.
Yeah.
The fucking EP flex, and this commander can rally more than that commander. This commander's the server's main pug man,
Or
and
or
shit
it's
like
like
that. It was terrible.
or
It
it's
was
like
terrible.
you need to, it's like, or it's like you are not listening to the will of the people, like kind of stuff. I mean, like it's crazy stuff. Like there's gonna be people with pitchforks that
Don't
are after
don't
my
don't
head.
call the non-gilded people on our server pugs. Call them militia. It was like shit like that, bro. It was the fucking worst.
I mean,
It was the
that's
fucking worst.
I mean, I love you guys. I love TC, you guys, but you are very prideful. So that is the really they're really prideful people. So they still hinge on that. They still promote that T-shirt with all the guilds from Vanilla. The Flux is on it, in small letters. But yeah, there's a lot of, it's really weird actually. There's still servers that have little meetings and councils,
No,
like
there isn't. No, there fucking
no
isn't.
DB
Shut the flip
we're
up.
on so I see we were so Sessor is linked with DB. I have had to sit in their weekly server
What
meetings.
is there possibly to talk? Hold on. First, let me laugh. All right, let me fucking laugh. Now, let me ask: what is there possibly to talk about that you need to have a server meeting in
It's
2021 GW2?
it's so weird because like Thorn and I know that we moved away, so on JQ when we were running things on JQ. Um, we did the server my map assignments were done via Discord, like just channel, and then because it originally was meetings, and then we just moved it to like just post them up. It's easier that way, and it was weird because like every time when we're linked to another server. I will be the person that runs the outreach, and I'll go around like, hey, like who's the guilds that are on the server? Do you guys do map assignments? We'll coordinate with you. We don't want people to get queued from both servers, so we'll work with you. And so I'll do that outreach. And then I learned that DB said to me, like, we have TeamSpeak. I'm like, what?
Oh
You
my
guys have a
god!
TeamSpeak? And then we have a meeting every week, right an hour before reset to talk
Holy
about
moly!
stuff. I'm like, what is this? Like
The 20,
2014? Like what the heck?
2012, bro,
2012?
2013, 2014. Like,
So,
what the fuck?
by the
Like,
way, I'm not
hello,
insulting.
there's
By the way,
Discord now. Just post it up and then be done with it. Be like,
but it,
we have
but
20 going blue BL. All right, Guild X has 20 going blue BL. Guild Y has 20 going blue BL. All right, 60 players blue BL. It's closed. Someone else pick a different map now. What
By
the
the way, I'm
fuck?
not. I don't want to insult DB. You guys have nice people on there.
Yeah,
But
Riv is Riv is not insulting. I'm fucking insulting. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're wasting an hour talking about what maps people can go to, and
it
in
was the
fact,
weirdest
more
thing.
often than not, each guild weekly has almost the same numbers, plus or minus 5. You could probably even assign
Yeah,
maps if you wanted to at this point, and save yourself the fucking hour, and do something important, like get a Discord, get your
it
Discord
is.
organized, train
It was the
players to be
wildest thing,
better
man.
players, present and expose the meta to the rest of your players. Like, fuck, if there's any server that needs to get more organized, it's fucking DB. You cannot be burning an hour every fucking Friday having a server meeting on map assignments. Hello? Fucking
The
hello?
I'm gonna interject it. I mean, the funny thing is like when I joined in that, I had like some weird PTSD because like it reminded me of all the meetings I had back on TC where we had like council meetings and all this stuff. I was like, am I in a time machine? Like we're using TeamSpeak and like people are talking
Jeez
about like
Louise, bro.
comms and they're talking about like at the end of the after the end of their meeting they'll be like, please donate money to the TeamSpeak funds. I'm like, who wants to pay for TeamSpeak? Like
The
it's like
fuck?
it's like use Discord.
Yo, fucking A, please donate money to pay for the fucking TeamSpeak. Are we really fucking talking about donating money to TeamSpeak, bro? Like, what the fuck? Go pick
I'm
up a free Discord, man. It's so
I'm so
much better. It's so much better.
yeah. I'm surprised how like
Oh,
TeamSpeak
Lord.
continues to exist in this day and age because
You
I
know what? This
remember
explains a lot. This explains why DB is in a consistent, historical fucking shit show status. This is exactly why. Holy
oh man
moly.
the I
Did you give him
it's like
$5, Rip? Tell me you give
no
him
I did
five
not I
bucks.
did not give them $5. I'm on SLR. Why pay for another server's TeamSpeak?
You
I
should
already
have given him $5. Be
when I
like,
was on
here's five
TeamSpeak
bucks.
when I was on
Don't
TeamSpeak I
ever invite
doled
me to
money
this.
for
Here's $5. Don't
forums
ever
and stuff.
invite me to this shit again.
Like I feel like the era of
Holy
like
moly.
server forums and server team
Oh.
speaks, or even before that, like people using Ventrilo and Mumble, that's over.
Oh.
Like, because I remember, so it's crazy because I know I'm getting to like hobby history stuff. A lot of people love hearing that stuff, but like for TC, there was a drama that happened way back when they went from Mumble to TeamSpeak, and this is before Discord existed. So it's like, well, and also when they went from Mumble to Mumble, so it's just like it's just weird. Like I think about this history and the fact that like they're just community. I mean, it's you can take that southern slang saying like bless their hearts, but it's like man, it's like a time capsule. It's crazy that
Yeah,
like
they're
they're
stuck in
keeping using
fucking
that.
2013, which is why their server is just a shit show, and they're not competitive, quite frankly. Because the thing about Discord is it's great for comms. Number one, you can
Hmm.
put the ats out so you know when people are forming out, so people don't have to sit there waiting. They know when there's a commander out. Number two, number three, it is your forums as well. It's your forums and your
Yeah,
voice comms in one fucking package. Like
yeah.
the
It's like you
only
guys.
thing that Discord doesn't have that I miss is CComs.
Yep.
But nowadays, I don't share map with anyone anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. But back in the day, CComs was awesome.
Yes, yeah, this is the only thing, but now for me, like Flux is fat that fills a whole map, so it's like why I can't, this very rare occurrence that I'm up on our commander on the same map, and even when I am, I just basically watch their tag and I can play off of it.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
mean,
and
at this
that's
at the
like,
point we are at, we can just play off
yeah,
the other
and
tag.
that's a
Yeah.
learned skill. So like, like CComs can be a crutch, but for those who know what that is, but yeah, I mean, again, like it's just so weird to hear about those things. Like, again, forums don't really exist anymore. Like TC used to have forums I paid for out of my own pocket back in the day. Like, you don't see server forums anymore. Signal Roll technically has one, but it's never been used in like years, not decades, but years. But most people use Discord because it's like a Slack and a chat and stuff like that. So people just communicate each other really quick.
Hmm.
By the way, Discord is. It's funny when you're talking about Discord and its benefits because it's like you're trying to hone in for a Discord sponsorship there. Maybe they should sponsor you.
They should. Fuck, we have a huge Discord here. Let me ask you this, Riv. What tools do you wish commanders had in game to help you improve commanding, or help some of your newer commanders, have an easier time at it? Either quality of life or just overall utility tool you wish you had in game as a commander.
I wish that there were more quality of life stuff like managing squad stuff. Like maybe like you would have not a loadout per se, but it's like you have a squad like arrangement, and then you can slot people in quicker that way. I don't know
What do you
what the
mean?
mechanics
Can
would
you
be.
can you expand on that?
Well, when you do composition, right? Like about I think like 15 minutes before, or 5 to 10 minutes before a raid is spent on building the composition,
All right.
and then like, even though like I have a spreadsheet that tells people what they are, people have to switch the classes and like, oh, we have these, we have too many of these, we have whatever. I think there should be something that allows you to arrange them quicker, instead of like having to add lieutenants and have people do stuff, micromanage stuff there. I personally think maybe like, and this is not really a commander thing, a nice call out life thing, having a built-in message, like you have the squad message thing to have it stick permanently. Like every time you tag up, that would be the thing you load in there instead of me copy pasting it every single time. So I can get the Discord in there. The I think the better things and areas like raid markers, like maybe a area symbol that kind of lights up an area to people to understand something. That's not really quite needed because raid markers on their own are pretty good, but I feel like there could be more there to signal targets, signal people, signal objectives, and stuff like that. I think maybe if you ping on the map, because there are ways to ping on the map that also pings in front of you in 3D space. So people know like, okay, this objective, like something's happening here, or we're going here, that kind of stuff. Like basically more visual aids, and also kind of ease people in because not, these days everyone pretty much uses voice chat as kind of a necessity. But for people who like have to tag up on a whim's notice, maybe not know the game as much, and they decide to step up and try to help out, there should be more tools for them to try to execute and try to defend a tower or defend an
Mm,
objective or something. And I think
mm.
that's helpful.
What about like auto quotes, like where you could just
Yeah,
put on your roller and like it
macros.
says macros, like it says, maybe you can put in like 8 or 9, and
I personally think there should be more versions of the squad message. The one that like you push the squad message button with scrolling the text in the middle of the screen. I think there'd be one where it plays
right,
like the alert sound when you do a raid check or something like
right,
that.
right.
So kind of wake people up and realize like there's something that you guys should be aware of. That's something that I think more visual aids because again like not that I've encountered it as much, but something that I appreciate in games is a more accessibility options for people because there's some
Mm,
people might be deaf or they might
right,
be able not
right.
to hear.
True,
I
true,
had
very true.
and historically, like Flux had one member who was actually deaf, and that was like really a challenge to like understand how I could make them play, better with us. And I would have to use like markers, to the ray markers to like denote how we like circle is a bomb command so they understand like kind of like a gist of what to do. So I think like there should be more accessibility stuff that helps people out, especially different types of commanders. I mean, if they didn't have the ability to speak or didn't have a mic, there's some way for them to communicate to the rest of the squad without having to bark commands. Because right now, it'd be a knee-jerk moment. Not saying it'd be a replacement, but more options can't always hurt.
All
So
right.
yeah, I think that'd be helpful. But yeah, like I said, like squad loadout, it actually would be be a cool idea if that can be implemented some way. I don't, I don't, like I don't know how that'd be fully executed, but maybe is a suggestion. But like I said, more accessibility options, more ways to mark things, objectives, signal things to your squad, um, denote things in your parties. Like those things are all helpful to anybody. So. I also think that there maybe should be, like I said, like when it comes to people who are ramping up people from being zero to hero, this is like completely new to Warless World. I personally think there should be things that fire off naturally on the map that allow people to know there's a natural funnel or area they need to go to. And there's camps for like yaks and stuff like that. But maybe like because I know there's like the Siege Raiser event when you're outnumbered, but I feel like there may be something to be like, hey, if another players do enough things, they activate something. Because remember, like there was like the old Quaggan event on Alpine and stuff like that. But something more specific, something that's like helps funnel and understand that you're channeling, going through your keep, and you're going towards Garrison, and this is where the fight should go towards. If I take a keep, that's a benefit for my team because it does something. So there needs to be more natural stuff within game mechanics to help very new players get in the game without having to join not only join Discord or guild, to make them learn the core mechanics of the game. Because the little NPC at the beginning of the World's Wilderness is not enough, to teach people about tons of like siege and supply and what exactly holding keep means. Like those things are like so abstract that people you don't it's hard to get new blood because when I had people sometimes that would come from like PvE, they're like, I don't get it. Like I don't like in the past, in the far past. Nowadays like people join us because they already played Warless World. But when people that are completely fresh to the game mode, they're like, I don't get it. And you have to give them like the book, like if I have to explain like how the thing works. And and I feel like there's needs to be more organic ways for them to flow into the game mode. I think one of the most fun times I ever had recently was there's one time I was on an alt and I was on my Ellie Weaver and I was just randomly went to EBG one time and there was a fight that broke out, but there was no commanders, like as in no commander for us and no commander for the enemy. It was just Cloud versus Cloud, and it's organic fight that was moving around SMC and going to the lore room, and eventually we took the keep after these series of big fights. But there was no commander leading, like pinpointing directions, stuff like that. But it was like that just showed how good the design was of the map. All the fights led there and kind of like funneled and channeled things happening. And I feel that's a lack on the other maps. There's no channels that would like naturally make people flow to an area. So there definitely needs to be more mechanics and more designs that allow people to naturally engage each other, aside from relying on the player base and relying on commanders. I said that before.
Yeah. What about game balance? What are your thoughts there? Current game balance.
I agree with some of the other commanders you talked to that I think the game is the most balanced it's ever been. There's things I miss a little bit from the HOT meta. I think the TTK time to kill in the current state of the game is too fast. I think power
Even
damage is too
even
high.
even now, you think it's too fast? Even after all the nerfs, you still think it's too
I think it's
fast?
too fast.
Hmm.
I think it's too fast because if you watch for example, if you like watch old videos, no, I think it was too long in HOT definitely, but there is a bit of in my opinion, when you watch like old GW videos or old fights against like some gun squad videos where they have big fights in the field against other big fight groups, and it's like this huge brawl that lasts for quite a long time and is really like engaging. In seeing like it requires everyone to be coordinated to basically find the window, find the opportunity to
That's because
finish
that
a
was all
group.
pirate ship, though. To be honest, you don't
I
think
didn't like the
that
pirate ship. I did
uh,
not like the pirate ship,
a pirate ship
but
meta is what caused those fights to last forever? But I mean, like, think about it now, though, right? When OP and Flux fight each other, right? Whether it's you or even one of the other commanders, the fights last at least
they
two
do.
minutes, two
I
to
think
three
if there's
minutes.
a
They're not one pushes either one way or another.
yeah,
So I
and
mean,
then
don't you think that's a
yeah.
fair, a decent amount of brawl time?
I
Longer
think
than
it's a
2 or 3
decent amount
minutes,
of
that
time.
might be too long. No?
That might be too long. I think once equal commanders is good. I think that my issue more is like there is less room for error when there's a huge skill gap. So like when you let's say if I fight like a group that's large but not as experienced, I basically know I can just one push them, and I would be like, okay, just steamroll them, just bomb hit push, and then their group might be like, what just killed us, like how, and they don't see from like that combat encounter, they don't learn anything, they just feel like they just got one shot, right? And that's why I feel like there needs to be, I mean, like against equal commanders, there is a tug of war, but I think like between the skill gap, if there's a newer commander, it feels like they're just getting destroyed
But isn't
at
that natural
times.
though in any game? Like I guess
Uh,
here's my point is like I've fought like when I fight you guys, Pugs, even Hate, um, who else is large out there? Like all the large community guilds, all the large 50-50 guilds, right? When the fight's 2 to 3 minutes, that's that feels fine. When 2 3 minutes going
yeah,
in either direction. When it starts getting to the 4 5 6 7 minute mark, I just feel like that's too fucking long, dude.
I
That's
think that
just
might, yeah.
too fucking long.
Like I said, I think HOT again was too much in the other direction where it was too long of a TTK. I just feel like there's just a lot of spike damage that even with the nerfs to all the CC abilities reducing their damage to nil, I feel there's still too much power damage in my opinion. It needs to be just a little tight lower, and that's my personal opinion. I know maybe people disagree with me on that, but I feel like there needs to be at least a small margin of error so a group can recover, like take time, like a few seconds to immediately recover instead of being completely wiped. Because I don't like you've encountered it, I've encountered it where like you wipe the floor with a group, even if they're equal numbers, and they leave the map,
Yeah, but
and
like
then
that's I don't think like so numbers being equitable, right? And this is my opinion. And tell me what you feel. But numbers being equitable, I think having a comp and meta takes you to a 50% win ratio.
mhm,
Like it really does. And then the other, 25% is movement and positioning, right? That'll take you to a 75% win. And then the next 15% is individual skill, and then the last 10% is commander. I think a lot of these large guilds that you're talking about, I know who you're talking about, they don't even comp up, man. Like they
Yeah.
don't comp up. They have thieves in their fucking shit. They have rangers in their fucking shit. They have like they don't have any. They don't have support in every single group. So then, how can they be surprised that they get one pushed?
Yeah.
If they even comped up even a little bit, they wouldn't get one pushed. And then they still might lose, but at least they won't get one pushed. And that's not
Yeah.
my fault or your fault. We shouldn't handicap ourselves because they're refusing to run a comp. I mean, that's their own fucking problem. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
I understand that point, and I agree with you. I don't disagree with you on that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that like I don't want super long fights, and I do enjoy the fights that last for like against OP and other groups comparable size where it's or even groups smaller than us like Dead where the fights last quite a bit, but it is not like overextending, and there's definitely a win condition. Like you definitely know, like the problem with HOT was you didn't exactly know when you were winning at times, where like you're toilet bowling, and then it just all came down to like okay, you zeroed in on like the weakest elements and you finally got them. And in POF meta, current meta, where it's like you definitely know you won. You basically okay, I got circular a lot of downs, and they definitely lost a lot, and they're going to lose in the next few seconds. So I just feel like I said, like maybe it's just a feel. Like, it's not really based on logic for me. It's like more like a gut feeling. Like I feel like there may be. I'm trying to consider folks that are way less experienced. Like I want to give them a chance, rather than just like I know like some people in chat are saying those scripts will still leave the map because they might be flakes or whatever. But I still want to give the people a chance to like at least like have the opportunity to learn something.
Yeah, but
You
that
know?
chance to learn and that opportunity to learn is to join comms,
Yeah.
participate and play with a more organized force. You know, half these people that fucking get one push, they're not even in comms, man. Like, let's be real here. Like, their comms participation, they might have a squad of 50, but
Yep.
they might only have 25 in comms. Whereas
Exactly.
a group like yours and mine, if we have a squad of 50, you can be damn sure every single fucking person in that squad is in comms,
Yeah, that was
right?
one of the
So,
reasons why we when we not the key reason, but one of the minor reasons why I left TC is because every time I tagged up and I have Pugs in squad, majority of them would not be in comms. Like
yeah,
it'd
I
be
mean,
just Rex in comms.
the days in this game, anyways, the days of the text commander are gone. There's no fucking way a text commander with equitable numbers, even with comp and meta, is gonna be able to beat a comp pug. The reaction time is too slow.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, I guess like there's no way you can like unless you had somehow built in key phrases. Even then, if you type in like a four-letter word, it's still too much time to respond to a bomb, a spike, or a pull. Like that's just too much.
Right.
So, and a lot of it requires knee-jerk reactions. So, yeah, I get you there. So I get it. For again, really in the meta, like I think it is the most balanced it's ever has been compared to all their previous metas. And vanilla had this weird ass gimmicks.
Yeah, it
I
was
don't know if
so
you
gimmicky. It was so
I don't,
fucking gimmicky.
you probably have seen you remember things like the confusion portal, like glamour bombing, where it's just like basically where like people just get killed by retaliation and confusion, for stacking on an enemy's portal or things like that.
There was
Um,
so much shit up until and I'd say it's been the most balanced for like the last year, right? Up
yeah,
until
yeah,
that point, you know when a game is imbalanced or like completely fucked when there's class stacking, and
yep,
people used to class stack the fuck out of this game, in the past, whether it be necros or mesmers or warriors even, or in the initial release when it was just fucking guardians, just put out fucking 30, 40 guardians with a staff and just spam one in a fucking line while you're running through people with stab that
yeah,
lasts forever, right?
yeah.
Those were the
POF was
fucking
pretty
days, and then throwing a
gassy.
pepper in a few warriors to create a hammer train, and you're Gucci. Like it was
Yeah,
toxic as
exactly.
fuck.
Yeah, it was. Like especially like when POF first released, it was crazy because Scourges were really broken and Spellbreakers are super broken because you're stripping boons every like quarter second or something like that. It was ridiculous, and it affected 10 people too. So
This
like
is
anybody who was
absolute
in a dome was
nonsense.
dead. It was
Absolute
not, yeah.
nonsense.
It was
Absolute
crazy.
fucking nonsense.
Yeah, so I mean, it is the most balanced it's ever been, and I do enjoy the style of fights. It does lead for like push comps and range comps being both effective. I wish though that there were more sources of stability aside from the guard. I wish that like there'd be more to, like the thing is like I know like previous interviews you have our commanders like and there have been questions asked before. It's like what happens if Scrapper was taken out of the game or something like that, right? Like heal Scrapper, right? But like the Tempests are like actually really close to being the same position as heal Star. They were originally were in the position
Yeah,
the
yeah.
heal
You could
Tempest.
alternate a heal Tempest or
Yeah.
Scrapper. Yeah.
Now the reason why is just with stealth. It's just like mainly because of stealth and also because of boom conversion. So, but if you gave Ellie's aside from auras, one little other thing, maybe go back to 10 people, like something that would consider a person managing composition to change that up, right? And like I want more alternatives, to different
Group
compositions.
diversity. There should be some group
Yeah.
diversity.
Yeah, because like
100%.
for us, like we've evolved, or my group has evolved, a few times, but then we kind of basically converge onto what pretty much the meta is, which is basically like you basically have a few control parties to include like mesmers and spellbreakers, and you have full damage 3x damage parties, which have Rev Scourge, and then miscellaneous DPS. It could be like whatever. It can be a DH. So it's like but that's like kind of what it always come down to, right? So I feel like there needs to be more like alternatives, more sources of stability, more sources of maybe healing, like damage. Definitely, there's quite a bit of diversity in damage right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But I definitely think there needs to be diversity in support, and that's what's lacking. And the
It doesn't
negative
look
right
like the
now,
expansion has any new
no,
support coming either.
yeah, I've tried out every single so far all the different elite specs, and I can't the POF, not POF, sorry, the End of Dragons, at least specs as they come out, they feel like they just don't feel like they have a place in World War World. They're too gimmicky, or they have like a particular thing that I see no opportunity for them to succeed in. For example, like um, Willbender, like why would I ever, if I was like, and even for roaming, like why would I choose Willbender over a thief, as a roamer, or in Warless World, like why would I have that when I can like outrange damage somebody, like a DH or core guard can outrange damage, Willbender because Willbender has to be like in melee range and like all their abilities are mobility, like. In order to buff yourself up, you have to use all your mobility skills and chain them together which makes you dart all around the place, which is not good for like a DPS, right? For a DPS in a Zerg fighting, I mean. And, versus a thief, which can do crazy burst damage and not only has stealth, for disengage, like why would take Willbender over that for roaming? So, and then also like I love Warrior, so I played all the different Warrior specs. And like when I played the Blade Sworn was like, this is such a weird gimmick because like I don't imagine, why would you do something crazy like, oh, I stealthed a bunch of Blade Sworn on a bridge or choke, and they're ready to unsheathe their blades and do their one big attack for 400,000 damage. That's not going to work. You know why? Because the moment you interrupt them or stun them, they lose their channel. They breathe on them, they lose their
Yeah,
channel.
yeah.
So it's like that doesn't work in World Wars World because it requires a lot of mobility. Like, why do you need to be stationary? Now, if there were some tweaks to that, whereas like, oh, like the charge was shorter, and maybe the when you're charging, you have stability, to prevent you from doing that. Maybe there's something, but even then, it's still a gimmick because why you lose one of your weapon swaps, and then like then you're also honed in on particular gimmicks because a lot of your things are based on counts. So like, oh, you have the tactical reload elite. The elite loads up, increases, short over every count ability by one, which is really cool. But at the same time, I'm like, does that make me like that just funnels me into shouts, basically? Like, and even then, like if I was gonna play shouts, like I would just be like worker warrior, worker breaker instead. And I have a dome, and a dome is more useful to a Zerg fight than the tactical reload, right?
Mm.
So that doesn't make sense. And then the only one that I found that was like fun and felt like thematically there was something there, but it was half baked, was Harbinger, the Necro spec. I didn't
Yeah.
like. I think the weakest thing was the elixirs, because there's just no good play with it. It's like unlike say engineer, which has elixirs. The elixirs have a dual purpose where you can actually throw them on your tool belt and they be reflect wall or something else, right? But for a harbinger, just boons. Like, oh, I have boons, and
Mm.
then if you do the boon sharing thing, it's like 180 radius. Like that's
Yeah.
small, the short, the smaller, sorry, smaller than like any other boon radius,
And
from
I
like
I
a shout
tested
word or
that
whatever.
thing out, and it barely did the same damage as a Scourge, but the Scourge brings
Yeah.
so much strip, so I'm like,
So
even
yeah,
at that perspective, it's like, whatever.
he's like you're train all those things like Scourge has like boon corrupts. It has a
The
barrier.
barriers,
It
yeah.
has like it has like a lot of pressure. And just like it just has a lot of area denial. Compare and so Harbinger's like you got to be in your shroud and you got to be in melee range to do your best things. And even then, the most damage you ever do is if you're spec for Condi, and Condi doesn't really work too well in this power-based meta right now because you can convert those boons because everyone's running scrappers, heal scrappers, and you're converting all those boons, those connies to boons.
Right.
Which is why when people go like, oh, I want to play, someone might suggest the wild idea of playing like, oh, I want to play Burn Guard. Like, no, don't play that because they convert your burning to Aegis. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so like that's the stuff. Like it's like that's where I feel like even it's like I look at it from every different aspect, like not just world was world, but like okay, this is like work in roaming, does it work in SPVP, does it work in PvE,
Right.
possibly PvE, but
Right.
like I don't see them matching up, and I know they're doing something a little different, like you said before, and I assume the same thing. They undertune them so they can tune them up, and hopefully, as they tune them up, they'll be better. But like right now, they don't. It's not even the tuning up. They feel like a little mechanically half baked, right? Because like it feels like they all these professions base themselves around a particular gimmick, and that gimmick's not even like that amazing. And then I'm sorry, Nina, for saying that critique. The but then like on top of that, like the traits don't feel like they have a good mixture, right? They don't have a good mixture in play of all the other trait lines. Like for example, like if you're a mesmer, the moment you spec into domination, oh, suddenly you got like boon strips, right? And that plays into all your other abilities and does interesting things. Or you spec into stuff with prismatic understanding. Okay, stealth, like all your stealth skills get changed a lot. But like all these elite specs, the new ones, there's not really much play. Like you don't see like, oh, like I did something now. It completely changes, the other specs too a little bit, or not specs, but trait lines. But and this is where I like go in the nitty gritty of the theory crafting. I sit there and was like, I don't see where this works out because like virtuoso, like virtuoso for mesmer is like, oh, you do like power damage, but like a a core guard is being the skill thing for core guard is less and does more damage than you as a virtuoso. So like, why would I take a virtuoso over a chronomancer? At this point, or over a core guard. So when I'm comparing it to the current squad composition, I feel that they don't stack up, and they need a little bit extra. They need not only like a buff, they also need some like slight thematic changes. Like they
Yeah,
need
I
to do
agree.
more than just
I
that.
agree
Yeah.
with that. There needs to be a tweak to the thematics because even like that fucking new Ellie thing, like you gotta sit in
Oh yeah,
place for that to be
Catalyst.
effective. Like, get the fuck out of here. Who's gonna sit in place using
Well,
that thing,
so
right?
see, like the thing about Catalyst, like it showed to me like there's like all these things. So I want to say they're not 100% bad. Like there is a good idea, but it's not finished. Like it's not all the way to completion. So Catalyst, for example, because I was like, man, this could be like something really cool because maybe if I like had the Jade Orb and I can move it around, but you can't move it around. Like
Yeah,
you
it puts
use
on
it,
cooldown if you try
it's
to.
as a you build it up and it's a long build up, right? And then you cast it and it's stationary, and then once you uncast it, it's gone, and you had to build up that long thing again.
Yeah.
Maybe they should make it more uh Ventari Rev, where you have the tablet and you can move the
Although
tablet around.
that thing has its own issues. That thing's a pain in the
Oh,
ass too.
I know it's a pain in the ass, but I mean, like saying like the catalyst, you have your Jade Orb, you can put it down, and maybe you don't can not reposition it, but if you unsummon it, you still have your endurance there,
Right.
and you can still use it, because like it just kind of gimps you because it's the core mechanic of that profession, and it just like why would your core mechanic feel like you're on like I think what's key is like every single profession feels like there's a portion of it that feels not OP, but just you feel like you're in charge and you have your power, right? You have this kind of power trip where you're like, oh, when I'm an Tempest, I overload, and that's like a great ability. It feels good, right? And then for a Catalyst, it feels like I use my Jade Orb and it's just weak. It's
Right.
like I put a field down and oh yeah, it gives buffs, but I gotta stay in it. And oh, now I gotta wait 20 more seconds before I can and build this up again before I can use it again. So it's like the downtime is so long.
I'm really
And
hoping that it's what I'm assuming that they're just releasing them undertuned rather than
oh yeah, yeah.
overtuned.
And
That's my hope.
I know they're listening to feedback and stuff like that, and they've been talking to us.
Yeah.
But I really think, I really want to get that point across that you guys have great ideas, but there needs to be an extra step there. There needs to be an extra step to make those professions feel good, and and because and when they're played well, I feel great. Like hammer, like again, like the hammer abilities for Catalyst, they feel kind of fun, but then like you realize, wait, there's already brawler abilities from like Dagger, like Dagger and Focus and Dagger and Dagger. That already kind of covers that area. So like, what does Hammer feel, right? It just has this kind of like spirally combo move that when you're number three, which is interesting. But then like all your abilities, like they're slow. They don't really do a whole lot in terms of like doing stuff with you and your group. I feel like there could be potential there for maybe more CC options, or something like that. Like maybe I pick a Catalyst because they're really good at zone denial, like maybe that would be something cool. Something I really would like to see, and that's why I'm like fingers crossed, but I don't see that maybe in the next, the three ones they talked about right now, the three ones they've shown and they will show at tomorrow. No, I want some support, like something that like does that breaks up the Guardian Scrapper meta, where it's like that's part of it. I want like another form of support that maybe brings something new to the table that makes me want to consider them. With hearing that maybe Thief has some support options, I would love to bring Thief and Ranger more into the mix instead of being really niche, fringe things. Like for me, like the only Ranger I bring is one a Mob Druid, and that's the one. Like I don't bring five, it's because then you lose DPS. So it's like I just feel like there's like there needs to be more. I want to have more people have more opportunities to play different professions because people love different gameplay styles. Something that I encourage in my guild is like sometimes I don't worry. I don't. There's some professions I frown upon, but I want you to be the best version of that class or whatever your gameplay style is. So if your gameplay style is like, I want to be a range type of profession, I want to do big damage, then play a Rev or an Ellie if you want to be a 1200, like that kind of stuff. But I want to give more people like if there's a good version of a ranger that I want to bring, then I want that, you know. For people asking, I'm from Flux, so. But anyways, like the yeah, I want more opportunities to do that, so people have
Is it
more
flux
stuff.
capacity or flux capacitor?
No, flux
It,
capacity.
any thoughts about a name change to name it flux capacitor?
No, I mean it is a reference to a bit the Back to the Future, but capacity also is because I didn't name the guilds when it first started, but the reason why the leaders named it because capacity flux was mainly like ever changing, and capacity was like we want to be able to play the content we want. We wanted to able to achieve our goals without having to be burnt out in our demands and stuff like that. So we want to be like again, it's kind of aligned with the goals of the guild. Like we want to be really learning and playing all sorts of content and being the best, being not the best, but being good and uh, continuing to be that and reach our capacity. So that's why
But
it's
think about it this way:
capacity.
if you rename the guild, you could then name a tune called Riv McFly,
Oh
and
God.
just how amazing would that be?
Funny
Just think about
fact.
it before you say no. Just think about it.
I'll think about it. I'll think about it. And I
Riv
want to say funny fact.
McFly. I mean, come on, you can't
Funny
beat
fact. My
that.
nephew, my so funny fact. My sister, her kids are named Marty and Emmett.
There
So
you go.
there you
See,
go. It's
like
destiny.
it's destiny. This is fate. You shouldn't be thinking about this. You should, as I'm talking, you should be writing that email to ANET support asking for a guild name change.
I'll think about it.
Think, McFly, think.
Things will fly. Yeah, yeah. I'll think about it, man.
Think
But yeah,
about it.
it's like
Think about it.
so. Yeah, but like I said, the meta stuff like that. I really want to shake up from the meta. And again, I've been a little disappointed with the new elite specs. Thematically, they're really interesting ideas, but they need to be extended upon. So we'll see when we are able to play test the next batch because I'll be sitting down and theory crafting and playing all sorts of things during that week. But I'll probably come to if the other weeks were the same conclusion, I'm probably gonna come to the same conclusion and be like, hey, like I don't see this in the World Soul meta at all. And maybe that's maybe not their intent. Maybe their intent is like we just want to have different gameplay styles and want to keep the meta the way it is because it's pretty balanced. But I like changing it up, because every time, and even though things are broken, every time a new expansion came out, there was a big shakeup, and there's a moment for a while where people don't know what's good. And I really love that part because it gets my juices flowing. I'm like, my theory crafter mindset. I sit down, like, try to bake out, something, right? And because that's fun. That's part of the fun. And again, I want more professions being able to participate in Zerg meta and Warlords World because that would make it healthier for the rest of the game, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, last 4 questions for you. What, and we kind of touched on this earlier, what is Flux doing for alliances? Who are you guys allying with?
So you already heard them. Thorin, we're allied with SF, but we're also allied with a few other guilds in our alliance. So
Okay.
it was like,
So
yeah,
you guys kind of did take 2 community guilds and pump them into one there, to be
yeah. But
honest.
SF is not like super huge. Like I mean, SF used to be, but they're roughly 30 to 35, maybe
Hmm.
40 at max. So
That's still pretty
they're
large, though, to
I
be
mean, this is
honest.
largish, but like I mean,
Yeah.
but again, like, but then we don't have a monopoly, as in like because it's not like there's like such a huge like it's not like I stacked like your guild and my guild or like I got you know Bane or something like that. No,
My
I do
guild's not
have we
that long.
do
My guild doesn't put out 50 every night.
no
Like, to be honest with you, like we put out 50 plus probably on reset night, and then the rest of the week we put out maybe 35 to 40.
yeah
People think we put
yeah
out 50-50 like full map
I
queues,
think
but
it's just
we
the
we
bugs that
don't.
follow you.
We just don't.
So
We just
the
don't.
other ones that like the greenies that might be
Yeah.
around, but I know that like looking at your squad you're running 30-ish or so or 40 depending on how many you have the night.
Yeah,
But
it's usually 35 to 40.
yeah, the but like I said, like the main thing is like the only like the big
There's basically
guilds,
SOR guilds, right? Like if I recall
no,
correctly.
it's like some, but some others. Because so let me mention it's like what we have so far. It's like Flux SF, and then Mist, which is a small Havoc-ish guild or
Right.
Havoc size guild. Then in SEA you have Bana and Dent and GC.
Dent is a
Um,
JQ guild. Bana is an
yep,
SOR guild.
Bana's SOR guild and JC is also SOR guild. And then we have Shrouded Warband is a small guild in FA, which runs from PST, and then EU we have Dusk, which is a big guild, but
Dude,
that's
so
EU
your
times
guild
one.
is actually that's a pretty stacky alliance right there, to be honest with you. Like Dusk
It is.
runs heavy. You guys take up a map. SF's out. SF takes up, let's say, 3/4 of a map.
Yep.
And then you have
For
Bana, which takes up a map during C. They're very, very large C guild. And then
the
Dent is probably like a 20-man C guild. So
yep.
that's a pretty well. It's a well balanced alliance. Don't get me wrong, but it's stacked. It's certainly
It is
stacked.
pretty. It is pretty. And the reason why we went that way is because we wanted the opportunity to flow between tiers, but also have the ability to have people be able to play all the time.
Are you
Because
gonna
like there are
fit
people.
500? Is that 500
Yeah,
players? That
it's
seems
less than
like larger
500.
than
No,
500.
we counted it. It's definitely way less than 500. It is like 250 at
Shut
this
the
point.
fuck up. No
Yeah,
way. That's 250 between
that's
all the guilds you just
for
mentioned.
like at the upper maximum 300. Like that's counting that's
How is that
overestimating
possible,
each of the
bro?
guilds
How is that
because
possible?
so we did the calculation because we have umbrella guilds that we brought people in for the previous what was the previous alliance beta, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we did a calculation. It's like, wow, we actually could fit potentially a few more our guilds because when Grouch and Carl played with Flux, I did point to them. I said to them directly, like, I was surprised that you said 500 was the lower minimum that you were trying to
Yeah, I think.
achieve because so good.
No, no, no. Go ahead. What you're
Uh,
about to say
so
is
it was
exactly what I'm thinking.
yeah, I was surprised that the 500 was 500 the 500 that achieve, and that is I that's pretty sizable because like most guilds, like even large guilds, are not up to 500 people. And another thing I want to point out for Flux is that our members are also shared between multiple guilds. So Flux has members that also play with Bana and also play with SF.
Hmm.
So it's not all just like we're just Flux alone as an island. It is also people who play with those other guilds during those time zones or when Flux is not
How big is
raiding.
the Flux roster?
It's about 200-ish, like 210, 220. But there's a lot of inactives on that roster that I could cut. If I cut down, if I just remove people who are inactive for more than 3 months, they'd probably be 100, 150, 180.
Okay, okay.
So that's like, that's me keeping the books in check. So, like again for Flux, like we try to keep the core of 50 pretty much at that like number, like around that number. We hover between at any given time 45 through maybe 55, right? And intentionally lock down recruitment, as in like don't bring anyone on when we reach the upper maximum, and then see how we do over months, right? And so that's why I don't want to. So we don't want to be that big because you won't be able to play with each other, and you guys have like a overflow squad. And
Right,
the other thing too is like you want everyone to be this community together,
right.
because you don't want to create some kind of blind spot, right? So, anyways, like, um, but yeah, so that's the rough number. And then some of my guildies are staying in your chat. It's like roughly 220, 270. But yeah, those numbers vary. But I for my personal estimations of calculating who's active or not, it can really be like down to 180, but in
That's
rough
gonna
number
that's
200.
gonna be a meaty alliance though. That's probably the
It,
meatiest alliance that I'm aware of up to
we've
now.
been planning for quite some time. So I mean, the main
It'll
thing
be
is I
fun to
want to
fight
play.
though. It'll be fun to
Yeah,
fight.
yeah, I don't want because we want to, bring, fight different guilds and stuff like that, and across different time zones. And we also, these are guilds and leaders that I've worked with before, and enjoy talking to and playing with. So, and there's a lot of respect between the guilds. So that like Dusk. The funny thing about Dusk is that they play into a little bit into early NA up to like 8:30
Yeah,
p.m. So they
they're like
always
early
catch
NA.
us.
They're like early
Yeah,
early NA.
well, yeah, so they always caught Flux, as in like they always like were able to fight Flux when we were starting our raid. And so we were able to fight each other, at least for 30 minutes up to that. And there was a mutual respect there because, they got to fight us and learn, fight other groups to say, because their time zone EU is like sometimes can be dead. So there might be groups to fight and learn, to be challenged by. So to be able to, when for them to, to fight Flux, and now being in the same lines, we can share information with each other, and I can share those ideas, to Elric, leads Dusk, and help each other out. It's like I want to bridge the gap. So yeah, and make build those new friendships. So and I look forward to playing with them. I look forward to on my some days off or whatever playing EU time zone, seeing how they roll. So I enjoy talking to them.
You
So
guys just the only time zone you're missing is OCX.
yeah, and some PST. Like we there's a so
I think
if I was if I was
PST
if I
is gonna
was
be overrated only because there's really only one PST group out there, maybe two anyway, so it's
Maybe. I
whatever.
mean, I think there's definitely groups on, say, CD that play into the PST zone. So not the very late PST, like definitely Nick has control over that. But there are definitely guilds that play definitely an hour or two later than when Flux ends its raids. Because Flux runs from 8 p.m. To 10 p.m. Eastern,
Oh,
for
you
like
guys
two
only run
hours.
2 hours? That's it?
Or more, depending if I feel like I'm fighting more. But it's generally 2 hours because by that time I'm exhausted. So and we
Right.
all have jobs. Like the average age range of Flux, like the median age of bed's like older millennial. So it's like people in their mid 30s and
Right.
older. We have grandmas who play in the guild. So the people have to go to bed. There's a joke. There's a meme with like Flux, like they have to pull out the battle walkers, because they're old. But there's we try to make it reasonable. So we play fairly often, 4 times or more a week. If some people do pick up raids, but we generally run for 2 hours. So yeah,
Okay. Last two questions before I open up to Twitch and the interview.
sure.
What is your stance on open field ethics or etiquette? I.e.,
The,
jamming, pin sniping, etc.
So it depends. So if the two commanders agree on something, or they meet in the field, and maybe they whisper each other, and they made an agreement. That's more set in stone. If you're on the field, I'm never gonna pin snipe ever, like because it's dumb. Like we don't learn anything from that. And if someone does it to me, I'm just like, okay, I'm a warrior, so I'm not dead. I can get back to my group. So but the main thing is, yeah,
So
I
if you
don't
see
want.
if you see server A and B fighting, you don't. you wouldn't hesitate to add into that fight?
It depends on the situation. If it's obviously a scrim, like they went to South Island to scrim each other, I will not join on that fight. But if it's an objective, they're fighting over an objective, and
Yeah,
there's
and
a
the
potential for me
objective
to take
is
it.
fair game. Objective is
Yeah,
fair game.
objective is fair game. Maybe the field is fair game depending on the situation. But if they're obviously in a scrim, like they're obviously went somewhere in the map and they're fighting each other, mano a mano or one on one, whatever you want to call it, um, then I'm not going to join on that. I'm gonna honor that. You know, and same thing if I see roamers dueling on Fight Island, I'm not gonna go hunt them down because they're doing their thing. So there's no reason to, unless they're in the way, unless they're running in front of my Zerg and I'm in on the path, they're likely going to die. But if they're, you know, in Fight Island doing their own thing, I'm not gonna do anything on that. So no pin sniping and no like I don't do any stupid tactics where like people pull commanders through gates or something like that. That's happened to me a few times where I've had like dragon hunters try to pull me through a gate and make me stuck in the wall. So I don't know if you have encountered that too.
Only
But
when I
like,
fight, believe it or not, I get the most pin sniped when I fight the GVG stack. Believe it
oh
or not.
really?
Yeah.
That's dumb. Because
They,
they know they can fight you on equal terms.
I eat a lot of DH tethers. I eat a lot of Revenant taunts, and I eat a lot of fucking Necro Focus fives, like non-stop, dude. Like if you watch the fight from my perspective, I'm usually eating at least 2 or 3 tethers at once.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like there's been a few times where I have, but like
And then
generally, yeah.
yeah,
But
and then prior to that, it was fighting BG. Fighting BG, I used to get pin sniped a lot. But other than
yeah,
that, no one
well,
else really pin snipes nowadays, which is pretty cool.
it's pretty yeah.
And
Generally,
well,
it's
Mag,
not
I
like
guess. Mag pin snipes, but you kind of expect that
well,
with
that's
Mag.
mag. That's because
Yeah.
this is the cloud. You know, they're
Uh,
doing that's the solo mentality that they're doing. So, but the uh definitely not MOAs. You know, I think that's kind of dumb. It doesn't not really effective either because like the commander is just a minute more like I said. When you're saying, I agree with you the same way as managerial. So like it doesn't hinder my ability to put down symbols and tell people where to go.
all right.
So it just makes me jerk a little bit. Like my character like jerks around because I'm one spamming, but aside from that, like doesn't do a whole lot. So, you know, those are the base etiquette. Is basically I will honor fights if a Karen whispers me and they want to, you know, my guild versus their guild somewhere, and like sure I'll do that for for a few times depending how fun the fights are. You know, like talked to me
Yeah,
before,
you
and
and I have talked before. Just
yeah,
kind of set up fights here or there.
yeah, and I don't mind that at all because it's a great opportunity for my group to learn, you know, about siege or other things, you know, in the way to find out what's wrong. So, so those, like I said, that's the base etiquette, you know. I will though, like if I see an opportunity at objectives that I will make AJ or might pull or
Yeah,
you
no
know.
shit. Fucking jerk.
Sorry, man. It's like I know I had done to you in Garrison in a couple times in the past.
Garrison,
So.
yes.
Yeah, I remember like I remember most fights, you know, like you know, it was funny because I talked to Dark Cloud a while back and I mentioned like very specific fights where I encountered him. He's like, "How do you remember those? Like that was so long ago." I was like, "I remember most fights, like anything that's memorable in any particular group, I remember them." So,
Interesting.
but
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't remember. I can't say that I remember most fights. But then again, I always kind of fight the commander. It's always been my mentality. Like I change my strats and how I
Oh
drive
yeah.
depending on who I'm fighting. So
Yep.
I remember the commander more so than I remember the fights.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because a lot of the times when you get into fighting against equals, it comes into it then does guns beyond squad and becomes commander mind game
Yeah.
at that point. And then you're
Commander
trying to
Commander
just
chess. Commander
yeah, commander
chess.
chess, yeah. Because like then you're at that point you're just basically trying to read them and their movement and then just counter it. And so like every time I fight you, I always tell my squad it's going to be 1-to-1, and that what that means is you're thinking as fast as I am or faster, and I have to say very short commands. And we have, you know, for Flux we have keywords that we say. You have RBs, you know, we have our own stuff, you know,
You don't take.
spicy
You should use fucking RBs too, bro.
RBs. We have our own things. We have make coffee, you know,
Well,
like
you
we
what is it? Make coffee? You said?
yeah, we make some coffee. You know, we
Oh,
have like we have spicy it up and make some coffee. So
make
like
some
spicy it
coffee. I
up
like
is
that. I like
yeah,
that.
make some coffee. Make some coffee is when you're grinding on the
Yeah,
enemy.
yeah, yeah. I like that.
So yeah, so we have our own stuff. Yeah, so
That's cool.
yeah.
All right, last question before I open up for Twitch. If people want to join Flux, how can they join? Or if they'd
Uh,
like to
so
apply or learn more about your guild, where can they
so
go? How can they apply?
if you want to learn more about Flux, go to SOR Discord and go to or transfer to SOR and play with us. We are even though our squads are full, you can still, if you can be on the map, follow my tag. Comms are open. You can follow us
Can
and
you
listen to me.
post the Discord in Twitch, or can someone post the
Yeah, I'll
Discord?
post it.
I'll give you
Yeah,
permission.
I got it. I get it in
I think
Twitch.
you need permission. What's your name in Twitch?
Alacrity Thief.
I think I need to give you permission to post.
Okay, one sec. Oh, this is the.
There you go. Go ahead.
You have permission. Okay, so that's the Flux channel in the SOR Discord, but we are currently not quite open for recruitment because we're kind of large right now. We onboarded a
Do
few
you not
new
have your own
members.
Discord? Real quick, sorry to
Yes,
interrupt.
but does not open to the public.
Oh, okay, okay. So
That is a private island.
there's not even a landing place for people to.
No, we had a website and we do still have it, but it's not updated. So
Interesting.
so anyways, like yeah, Flux is very thick. So we onboard batches, small batches at a time, depending if we need to recruit. The only professions we're looking at maybe support professions. So that's Hillbrands and support scrappers at this time. But you know, if you play with us enough and we really like you, as in like you fit our our culture and you're a really nice person, not toxic, we will like to we do make exceptions.
Kid, I'm
So
out. Really nice person, not toxic. I'm fucking out, bro. I don't make that cut.
yeah, you're too toxic, Indo. Yeah, you're too much baggage. You know, I want to say that when it's crazy because I had talked to Dark Hub before, and I know you were shocked too, but learning that he had only commanded for less than like 2 years or something like that,
Yeah, that's
like
pretty
for playing
cool.
GW2, and it's crazy to me that people are some people coming in at that point because they don't have the baggage. Like all the baggage. So me and you, like, and all the other commanders that have been playing forever, like all this like freaking baggage.
Wait, what
And
baggage do I have, man? I'm fucking easy peasy. I
I
got
mean,
no
not
baggage.
baggage, not baggage as in like currently your baggage is affecting you. I'm saying like history,
Oh,
really,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
history.
A lot of
So we have
history.
history, and then people attack you based on that history, that
True,
kind of stuff.
true, true.
So even though it doesn't matter anymore because servers are dead, so or server pride is dead at this point, in my opinion. But yeah, like yeah. So you can learn about Flux by joining, playing us on SOR. We're happy that people to join with us, even though you might be in a squad, you still be on comms and get to listen to our amazing, fun people. And we feel that that's your boat and you enjoy us, you can talk to us, and we can make exceptions. But I'm happy to talk to people, and we're a very open group, anyways. So yeah, that's where you find more about us.
Okay. Let me open it up for the Twitch. Anyone have any questions for my boy Riv here? Any questions at all? Or for either of us? Let me open it up completely. Does anyone
Yeah.
have any questions at all for either of us?
Or you want to hear more about the history between me and Indo, back in the day, and talk about war stories or something.
Well,
Oh, you're very welcome.
that that's a whole different conversation. That's gonna
Oh
take like
yeah,
an entire night if we get into that shit.
I'm open to that. I'm open to that later on. If you want to do like a not commander thing and be like just war stories or weird hobby
That's what
drama,
we're gonna
I'm
do.
open.
I think that's what I'm gonna do for fucking our commander roundtable. I'm 100% doing a commander roundtable towards the end of the year of this year, and I'm gonna invite all the commanders that I've individually interviewed up to that point, and we'll do a commander roundtable.
So the question, who is your first favorite fight in the matchup this week? It was against on Monday night. I fought against Jade, and I also fought against a combo of here, PBT, and OTL, as in like a three group, and so always challenging, always fun to fight multiple groups at the same time, and really, uh, a big ego boost if you are able to beat all three at the same time. But I have that's the most fun I had for this week was fighting all those groups. And Jade is always like they have a really killer one hit punch, but if you avoid that punch, then it's pretty easy to evade. But uh, that they are a tough group for a lot of people because of their damage output. A PBT especially because of penguins. He's a tough commander to go up against because his movement is very quick So a lot of times I had to be one-on-one, especially in a multi-flank fight. I have to deal with not only him, I had to deal with the other groups that are trying to flank me, and I have to play really quick movements, and I have to like bark to my squad loudly over and over again where I'm positioning because otherwise people just die. If that so it's always a risky move, and I make huge gambles. But that's really those are my most fun fights this week that I played, and I enjoy fighting against like a lot of groups. As long as groups keep it coming out and fighting, it's fun. I drove. Oh, that's like half the time. Oh yeah, Indo. We have footage of you falling off a cliff and dying. By the way, you fought Tegan, when she was commanding, and then you're fighting at South Hills. It was
Mm.
South Hills, and you jumped down, and you all fell before the water. uh,
Maybe. Yeah, actually, I think that happened last week, right? Last week,
yeah, it
not
was
this
last
week.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
last week. Yeah. But I've done it myself, where I've driven people off a cliff, and or I misjudged on Red BL that we didn't have the ear keep buff, and I've made everyone crash to the ground and die. So
It's a,
that's yeah.
it's the cost of doing business, you know.
It is, yeah. It's a trust exercise. If everyone follows you, then you know they all trust
Yeah,
you.
everyone's trust. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You guys have any more questions for either of us? And happy to,
More so
spend
for Riv than
time.
me, but I'm happy to answer any too.
Uh,
Why the heck do we follow you?
you like me. That's why.
Why do you prefer Spellbreaker over Chrono? That's a
I
good
said
question.
I said that because one, I love the gameplay of Warrior, and I'm big, and also it's not because I'm allergic to Chrono. I love Chrono, and I have roamed on it before and have played Chrono with other commanders. So when I'm not commanding, it's not a raid night for me. But like I said, for Spellbreaker, it's to help sync up all the domes and the dome order with the rest of the Spellbreakers. And I know after I fire off, because I'm the initial engage, because my dome is pretty wasted because of not wasted, but like is usually used in the feint or usually used as the initial hit. And so mine is kind of like time, it sets the time for all the R spellbreakers. I know what each of those are capable of. I'm in charge of them, basically, in charge of like coordinating them. So it helps me be in line with them. And the same thing for any other profession. Like if you are a guardian commander, it helps you know tome timers better. If you are if you are a chronomancer, you can time more with like the sync of Gradwells and illusions and things like that. But since Flux has 3 to 4 or more uh, consistent chronos that are really good and do coordinate really well, I don't need to be on chrono to micromanage them. So um, the other question was I commanding the first few years at War as well. So like I said early in the interview tonight was I started doing Havoc command, so it's just like 5 to 10 flux. So that's technically commanding, but not fight command. Fight command only came, I'd say, around 2014, 2015 is when I started really fight commanding, really trying to lead a group more than 20 to 25
It
and
was
try to
around the
do that.
same time that we did alliances, right? Were
Yeah, the
announced.
pre-alliance thing. So you came a
Pre-alliances,
little bit
yeah.
after. So that was a little bit after. So you came like maybe a year after I started fight commanding to TC, and that's when I like really got fight commanding. And then I would on off days I would play with you or Mal, ONS, so TW or ONS, and sometimes be able to like see what Gun Squad's doing. But yeah, so like it was a really like I said, formative experience, and allowed me to see different viewpoints, different commanding styles that I had not seen before. And at that time, I commanded on Guardian on Core Guard, so because of the HOT meta. So, like I said, I've commanded on multiple other professions, and it depends on what's meta. Again, if Soulbreaker somehow like magically is not meta, then I will not play it, and I'll play something else and command on something else. I'll play Chrono or whatever. So I'm not allergic to other professions. Now, I won't play things that are bad. I would not play around Ranger or Necro. I'm not command on Necro or Ranger, or not command on a Berserker. Why would I do that? I have no dome, and I have less defensive like abilities to survive. Like, why would I have that? So, I would not. So as long as it works with my group's composition, I will command on what's appropriate. Uh,
Given the chance, what would you remove from the game to improve World v World?
we just said remove. Oh, that's interesting. Um,
I'll tell you, fucking
Or
all
worse,
this.
so yeah,
I want like the structural buffs to go away. Like, there's
yeah,
already huge advantage for fighting in your structure or around your structure.
yep.
They should get rid of the plus to stats around structures. Like, it's annoying that there's certain groups that just exclusively fight around structures. Like, some groups you need to use it for, but there's some groups that only fight around their structural buffs.
I personally think it is quite a part of the game now, and it's hard to remove. I feel that different stat boosts, not only structural boosts, but also bloodlust and food, also I think
I don't know,
skew the balance of
food
the
or
game a bit.
bloodlust. Well, food and bloodlust, everyone has access to. Well, not bloodlust, but let's say food. Everyone can put up the
Yeah,
same food. So
yeah, as long
food,
as people have
food
food,
makes
yeah,
it equitable.
it
Bloodlust, I
does.
mean, you could work to get it. So maybe bloodlust, but structural, it's always a defender that has it.
Yeah,
And on top of the structural, they have all the other bullshit too
yeah, the
to go
siege
on
and stuff,
top of
yeah,
it. Like, defenders have so much advantage right now. Like, it's fucking nonsense. Like, they need to get rid of some of those tactics, the structural. There's
yeah.
too much bullshit in the game right now.
So I think so one key thing, I think structures should be a little weaker. Like as in I
I
think the
agree.
health of structures is too high.
Too high. Yep.
There is not enough taking of objectives, and because of the fact that you already got siege, and if a group knows how to use, like a server knows how to use siege a lot, they just can siege it up and shield gen it, and just be annoying. If everyone and then someone in this game has fought Doc, you have been dealing with trebuchets the entire time, or they cut you through
Supply
the
traps.
side drains.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I do is like I'm so used to it these days, depending on the group I fight or the server I fight, that I send people forward and be like, hey, anyone with no supply go forward first, or have scouts go forward.
Mm,
And I have that, but it's annoying, because like I have to do that thing, and
yeah.
it's part of the tactics, and love some people like that kind of tactics, but it's kind of annoying, and it doesn't lead to good engagements later on. And like I said, like keep health is I think too high. There needs to be it doesn't need to be like so low, but definitely like reinforced is way too high, and breaking open a siege can take. There are times where I spent an entire night taking a tier 3 keep, because of siege or in combination between groups fighting in there. Fighting groups is fine, but other times it's like I just feel like I'm slogging, right? And that is not an enjoyable night for anybody.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't,
tough.
yeah. So I think that the keep health should be lowered, in my opinion. So maybe 70%, like not lowered like from 100 to 70, or maybe up to 50, that kind of thing.
I agree with that.
Um, Another question was like, what do you both think is the best way for new commanders to learn how to command, pug commanding, havoc commanding, guild commanding? So it depends on your situation. If you have a guild of people who are really active and positive, and you want playing with each other a lot, start with havoc if you're small. So if you're like five, up to 15, 5 to 10, start with havoc commanding, leading your small group, taking in small objectives like towers and camps, and try to ninja keeps and stuff like that. That's one way of doing it. If you're in a big guild, or if you have access to a large guild, you can immediately try to jump into fight commanding. The issue with trying to do fight commanding or pug commanding with no support whatsoever is very hard in this game. Indo and I, in this interview, said about a lot about that. It's hard to start from scratch. But if you have community resources, like you have other guilds in the server or people you're friends with, it's all about connecting connections with people and trying to bolster up your presence, on a server, and trying to the main key thing I'd say is like be consistent. Like the thing that makes people follow you is one of the few things is be consistent, as in show up. And oh, that's the guy who tags up all the time and tries to save things, right? And even if not a lot of people follow you, it takes a lot of time to build up trust and build up, some kind of recognition for more people to follow you and such. And then on top of that, your next goal was be starting to win, either winning by taking objectives or winning by winning fights. And by doing that, they'll build up your rep and also make you a better commander. So continuing to study up on different things. Again, asking if you have guilds or commanders you can talk to anyone who's open to give you feedback and show you the ropes, and teach you stuff. So just try to find as many resources as possible, really, and just shotgun it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So, but
I'll
yeah,
add to that and say all that, and don't try to reinvent the fucking wheel. Like, reach out to a
yeah,
more experienced commander, follow a more experienced commander, whether he's pugmanding or if they can, you can join their guild raid, whatever. But don't try to reinvent the wheel because reinventing the wheel at this stage of the game is gonna be
no,
fucking misery unless you have a following already who's gonna walk with you through fucking hell through the learning curve. If you don't have a
yeah,
following already that's gonna walk with you through hell through the learning curve, follow another commander. Just literally, if you need to, just rip off what they're doing, apply it to what you yourself, change
yeah,
some things that work for you, and just run with it. At the end of the day, there's no right or wrong way to command. It's only effective or ineffective, right?
yeah,
Follow a bunch of different commanders or pugmanders and take whatever works from all of them and create your own little pseudo style, whatever works. But at the end of the day, do not try to fucking go in it alone because it's gonna be fucking miserable. In GW2 2021, where fucking pugs are just they have such unreasonably high expectations, and it's so hard to build a following that in the beginning, if there's too much fuck up, people aren't even gonna take you seriously and they're gonna stop following you. Like you gotta be able to have a knowledge base yourself and a little bit of confidence to command and know what you're going to do in certain circumstances. And then on top of that, make sure to always pug man, in my honest opinion, from some type of voice comments, whether it's your community server, a guild server, fuck one you just make up on the fly and call it, my server. I don't. It doesn't matter. But command from comms, follow other commanders. Like there's very simple things to get yourself started and have the best possible chance for success. And then on that, on top of what everything Riv said, consistency. Make sure you're always out there. Taking reasonable. Successes and goals and objectives. Don't go fucking, you have 15, 20 people, there's a map blob out. Don't go bashing your head against SMC over and over and over again. Go hit a tower somewhere, take some small wins and W's and build a rep over time. Don't try to
yeah, and
build don't try to build it all in one fucking week or night. It takes time. It takes time.
yeah. Take it as like I said to my commander, like Flux's commanders who are in training, and to any other commander outside my guilds, like starting out, it takes a lot of time and doing to actually learn. You can read up all you want, watch as many videos, read as much as the meta, but a lot of it comes down. It's like learning to do like how to speak, as in like if you're like doing, speech seminars or something like that, you got to learn how to project yourself. And that's also a skill. It's also a social skill too. Like it's a leadership role and a management role. So it like a lot of it comes to the territory of learning those human skills and honing those in too. So, and each commander, like I said, like has their own style. Another thing I want to quickly add is that small group commanding and large group commanding also is a very different story. So it doesn't fully apply. What happens in large group doesn't completely apply into very small group. Very small group can be more akin to roaming at times, and the builds are different sometimes too. But you find out what's effective for your group and then evolve. It depends on your goal. If you like want to just be permanently havoc and be happy with that, that's fine. Props to you. And there's other groups that like I want to eventually become a big guild in Warmost World. Like good luck, and I wish you to if use every resource available to you to do and work hard, but it takes a lot of grit to get big, because there's a lot of times where you'll be 5 members away from I think I said this to many guild leaders and they're going to be like, well, Riv's saying it again or something, but there's like the 15-man guild problem, where if you're a guild that's around 15 to 20 people and you want to grow to 30, there's a hard ramp up where you're always trying to recruit and trying to be more serious. But then when you're onboarding people, your the quality, not quality, but like the skill level goes down a little bit and you're struggling at that point. But once you get past that hump, this is more like guild management stuff. When you just get that past that hump of like to reach 25, 30, then you finally surpass that and you finally can grow even faster. This is a weird curve. This is just guild leader type stuff.
That
But yeah,
and in this game, honestly, the difference between 20, 25, and 30 is huge. Like
yeah, it is.
you wouldn't think it's huge, but it's fucking huge. So like you have some effectiveness as 15, 20 man, and then you start fighting around 20 to 25, and you're fighting a 30-man group, with that +5, and you're like, what the fuck? We're getting tracked. That 5, 10 players, it's a big deal. Like, you wouldn't think so, but it is. So don't get discouraged around like that 25 mark is kind of like that I almost want to say it's like kind of like that, if anyone's ever trying to grown a beard, or you're trying to grow your hair a certain way, like, it's that ugly phase. It's that fucking ugly phase. And it really is hard to work with 25 when you're trying to get to 30 or beat 30, 35, 40. Like, I think you can beat 30, 35, 40 with 30 for sure. It's a lot harder to do that with 25. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder to do that with 25.
Yeah, like it's interesting how composition completely alters when you have extra hands, in the
And that
squad.
extra
So
five makes a difference. That extra
it
five
definitely
makes a
does.
difference. Like that, as 30 man, you could beat, obviously, 30, 35, 40, maybe even 45. It's really hard to beat 45, 40 players with 25. It's really, really hard. There
Yeah.
has to be a huge skill disparity, for that
Even then, it's
to be
super
happen.
challenging.
Yeah.
It's super challenging. Um, for the next one, the Len post, I'll let you Indo answered that one.
What's your
First, I'm
favorite
curious.
one-off niche sort of tactic that you've seen? Maybe something that impressed you because it took coordination to pull off or made you laugh. Hmm. It's a good question, actually. Um, you know what? There's this one guild. I forgot the name of it. So what they do, and I don't think you could do this like with a large fucking guild, but
No.
maybe what they do is they actually use the necro fucking burrows. What's it called again? The
Oh,
fucking
the Sanders, the swell
the
or
swell.
whatever.
So they use sand swell to engage, and then mesmer portals to disengage. And they always use the mesmer portals to disengage out from Narnia. Like when they're gone from your fucking screen. Like, where the fuck did these guys port to? They engage with swell, they disengage with mesmer portals, and I think it's kind of it's cute. It's interesting. Like, it's not gonna beat a group like mine, but I can dig the coordination. Like, and they come in with like fucking 12, 10, 11 seconds of stealth. They engage with swell, and then they disengage with mesmer portal.
Was
Uh,
this an SEA group? Because there's a group that does that, I think, in SEA.
it's like CEU, right? Like, they play a little
Yeah,
bit later.
I think it's not Foo, right?
I
it's
don't,
I think
I
it's
forget the
Foo.
name of it, but I thought it was kind of cool. It was interesting. Like, it didn't bring them a W, but I bet you against like a 30 man, like, because they were only running 20, they weren't
Or
that
Burr.
large. But
Oh, I thought Burr did they usually do more trap card stuff last I remember, but
Bird does more portals though. I think
yeah,
I haven't seen them do exactly that where they're engaging with necro things and
particular
then
profession.
disengaging with the mesmer portals. I've seen one or the other by a lot of NA guilds. Like, I've seen NA guilds, like, what's that other guild? That guy he used to stream. He does a lot of mesmer portal disengages.
Oh, you talking about Lane, Serious Minus Lane,
No, he
the
begins with a
or
G.
OG?
Gal,
Oh,
right?
Gal.
Gal.
Oh, Gal, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they do a
Burr's
lot of the
right.
mesmer portal thing, and then Burr does actually. I've seen Burr do a lot of the necro burrow thing. But there's this one guild that plays CEU is like kind of one of those days when I logged in a little bit earlier before EU, and they use both, and I thought it was kind of cute. That was
Yeah.
good
I
coordination.
s- I see moves like that, it's kind of interesting. And I think like you see sometimes more of those in off time zones because the numbers might be smaller. So like the types of squads and disparity might evolve into weird different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
And
why it's
and and
interesting.
and I think what they did, because and it's smart the way they did it, right? So they engaged with the fucking barriers off the burrow, and I think their necros had some healing power juiced in there because these guys would engage with like, 25%, fucking barrier on that shit, so they get a little extra cushion at the front, and then when things got hairy, they'd fucking pour it out of your entire like map, like you don't know where the fuck they are, like they're gone, right? They might as well disappear, and then they stealth run away and then re-engage. Like, it's a one-trick pony. Don't get me wrong; it's not gonna beat a large guild, but I bet you it's an effective sidecar. It's probably a very effective sidecar if they're quick on the burrows and quick on the portaways. And I bet you they do take, probably 30, 35 mans and very disorganized map blobs by themselves with that tactic.
Yeah. For me, it's the only weirdest stuff I saw was only, like I said, historical. Like I told about the the crazy thing in vanilla with what's called the mesmer turret, which is like no one could step on the mesmer portal because it would just give tons of confusion. You die immediately on top of it, and top of the retaliation from the guards. But they would not move as a squad. They would just use a portal, move into another area, or move into the middle of your Zerg, and then
It was a
just kill
turtle
you.
meta way back in
It
the
was
day. Yeah,
the
the
turtle
turtle
meta
meta
back in the day.
way, way, way back in the day. They would never move. They would literally just stand on there and use the mesmer portals to move around.
Yeah,
And it was
such a
toxic as
whack.
fuck. And if you
Yeah,
remember back then, the Guardian's healing didn't have a cap. So the
nope.
Guardian's healing would heal the entire fucking blob. And back then, people would run so many fucking Guardians in their comp, so they had a healing up the ass too.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so currently, the only thing like I personally done, but it's not really smart. It's just like kind of funny and kind of dumb. Was when you have the fall buff from Airkeep when you capture all three shrines, and I have a few times successfully fallen from a great height and on top of a Zerg and has completely killed them. Like from the combination of the fall, there's a fall damage thing that happens, and then you start bombing them, and so that's funny, but it's just gimmicky. So, but that's not really like a smart and clever thing. That's just like, ah ha ha, that happened. But yeah, most of the crazy stuff I've seen is again vanilla when things are really broken. So I have not seen like anything super like holy crap that's impressive, kind of deal. Aside from like some really coordinated portal bombing or some really coordinated stuff like Indo just talked about the sand swells and stuff, but I don't see anything fancy. Most groups I see are your typical like they're use the Veil engage or they'll use NG stealth engage or there'll be a range comp or whatever. So I've seen quite a bit. I have not seen anything super crazy interesting aside from the Chinese meta, which is weird, but that's because I think that's how their meta evolved, not because like it's so new or anything like that. So everyone's turtling right next to each other and just like stacking damage on top in front of each other's face. I don't think that's I think this is an evolution of what they did, not really like the game really. So I know that maybe not maybe you could be an amazing answer, but that's my answer for that. Oh, siege. You're talking about siege removal. I want to remove lessen siege. I would definitely want to have a cap on how much siege you can put down because I was grateful that Aina did put the cap on arrow card damage, but I feel it's still not the damage per se, but just like the ridiculous amount of siege placement. Like sometimes it'd be like 4 trebs in an area, and then like you had to deal like a lot of fight managers don't know. For me, since I used to be a Havoc commander, I have a lot of knowledge on siege stuff, so I know how to counter siege, but it's annoying. It's a long slog because other times you're just like, okay, I gotta like build a shield gen myself and then deal with their siege and work on their siege. And then once you break, I mean, Endo did today when he was before this interview when you were fighting, you had to de-siege the entire keep, right? So like you had to go, like you had to do this whole kind of circuit
Unfortunately.
where you're like, go through garrison or go through the keep, and you're like, okay, I go kill all the arrow carts, all the trebs, all the things. Now I can work on the Lord. Oh wait, they still have supplies. They're gonna build more stuff up there. I gotta go and pull people off of the wall again. So it's like that's tedious. I know that's part of the strategy for them to succeed, the enemy group to succeed if they don't have a fight group, if they don't have a comparable group to put down siege and stuff like that. But I just feel like there's got to be something better than that because it doesn't make for a good fight or a good encounter, really, even. It's just like you just feel like you're doing cleanup. Like I'm just cleaning out the pests in the keep, right? I'm just like, oh, there's cockroaches here. I got to get rid of them. That's just like annoying to me. So I want to make something more substantial. So make people want to collect, make people want to collect on tech so they can fight instead of hunkering down siege.
All
Any
right. Well,
other?
I'm gonna give you the last word, Riv, before we call this interview. This is the longest one thus far. I thought the one with Dark was pretty long.
Loud.
The one with Bully was loud. I liked that one was great. The one with Dark was pretty long, but I think you might have surpassed everyone.
No.
Two
I mean,
2 hours and 41 minutes.
wow, damn. Well, it was again. It's always fun talking to you, man. And I love talking to people and just trading stories back and forth. I'm very open to anything, and it's just like, again, like it's just good to talk, have the community talk with each other,
Yep.
and really just like get a sense for what's going on in the world's community. Because like, each of us have talked to each other forever, but like not in the public,
Right.
it's very rare do you see in the commander's mind. And so I think this is really a nice thing you're doing. And I hope, I'm sure Anet's watching these and stuff, but it's like I
They
really
are.
hope that it really encourages the sense of community and belonging that keeps this game mode alive.
And
And the answer, yeah, go ahead,
no,
sorry.
no, no. You go ahead.
I was
Please
about to say
finish.
that quick question that was I'll answer. It's like my favorite map is technically red, but I do prefer
Don't
Alpine a little
say
bit
it.
more.
Don't
I
say
mean,
it. Or
if
we,
you,
we're scrubbing his answer from
I'm
the
kidding, I'm kidding. I
VOD.
do like Alpine more than personally. I do like Alpine more because they're better. There are more fights you can engage on Alpine than you do red. I do like the keeps on red though. I think there definitely needs to be a new map, because I want a third map aside from desert and Alpine because I don't want to have just two Alpines. It's kind of boring. So I want more ways to fight
Yeah, agreed.
personally.
But what I was gonna say is hopefully, like as you know, especially because a lot of the interviews I've done thus far are on the larger guilds. Hopefully, when people see that there's mutual respect between the commanders, there's mutual respect between these guilds, and then the general world v world player at large can see that you can have competition, hardcore competition, and still be respectful with your opponent, still be
Yeah,
respectful with the person on the other team. Like we fight FLUX, we respect him and we fight him hard. When we fight Pugs, we respect him and we fight him hard. When we fight Hate, we respect him and we fight him hard. When we fight SF, we respect him and we fight him hard. Like all these large guilds, we look at it as our equals. We look at them with respect. We want them to improve, so then we're forced to improve. As long as it doesn't get toxic amongst the commanders and the leaders, and it doesn't get toxic amongst the guilds, then the general community at large can see your opponent and not have to fucking disrespect them. Like you can
yeah,
have all the great stuff out of a world world community without letting it get toxic and destroying your own competition, destroying your own, community, destroying your own fun in the game. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and yeah, I totally get it, and I agree with you. And the thing is, like, it's just a game, like after all, and it's like, why spend the energy, just hating on people? Sometimes I personally, think about historical stuff. I'm just like, wow, why do I waste so much time, like either hating individuals or hating guilds and stuff like that. It is a game after all, right?
It's a
And you're just
fucking
like
game.
you're trying to have fun. And in this age of the game, you're trying to hang on to having people enjoy their time together. And at this point, we've all fought each other a bajillion times. And so it's like, why would I hold a grudge?
That and every single guild in this game, bar none, every single guild in this game has lost fights to every single other guild in this game. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter who the fuck you are. Everyone has lost fights and won fights against every guild out. There's not one undefeated guild in the game. Period.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be any it shouldn't be any like dick measuring going on. Like respect the fight, respect your opponent, enjoy the fight, enjoy your opponent.
Yep. And even guilds that, some people trash on, like like when people joke about Doc and stuff like that, I don't I mean, I might make fun of their tactics, but I don't make fun of them as people because
Yeah, I
like
don't, I don't, I don't hate Doc as a person. I don't hate anyone in Doc as a guild. They might have a very nice people. Their community might be amazing. I don't have respect for Doc as a guild because of how they play the game.
oh
But that
yeah.
being said, it's their fucking game. They can play it however the fuck they
Yeah.
want to.
And they might, they might enjoy that because same thing with like
Yeah,
small
they might
groups I've
enjoy that.
fought
I don't know.
before that, like White Lotus on TC, they love to ninja keeps
Yeah, which is
and make,
fine.
yeah. which is
But
fine.
then the other
And
thing about Doc is he talks a lot of shit, to be honest with you. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, play your game, have fun with it, do
yeah,
whatever the fuck you want. It's a video game. But then don't talk shit afterwards. Like, he talks a lot of, like, shit. Like, he's actually a toxic person. Like, and if he, like, and he's always, like, accusing people, or at least he does me, of, like, hacking and cheating. And
oh man,
it's like every
even
time he loses an engagement, it's like, oh, so turn on those hacks, have you? Or like, oh, you've fallen from the beginning days, and you've started cheating now. Like, and you don't know how to respond to this. I don't get into it with them just because I don't care.
no, and you don't
But
give energy
you
to it.
can't get toxic like that and be like that type of guild. I'm sorry, like you can't have it both ways.
I mean, like I guess sometimes get weird commentary at times. Like if I because of my history, as in like Flux was on TC for a majority of the game, uh, uh, and so but when we fight there, we go because we want to take keeps and stuff. We go like we just our goal is to take tier 3 keeps to have big fights, right? So like I will go for the garrison, and then when I take the garrison, sometimes I get whispers like, "Why you do that? You're so mean. I can't believe you." I'm like, "This is a game. Like I'm trying to. My goal is to take your
Yeah.
keep." That's like it's like I don't hate you. I just like you're red and you're my enemy. I'm just like attacking you.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
part of the game. And then like when you're like 2v1ing someone and it's just a natural 2v1 whether you're attacking their garrison or they have SMC, they're like, "Oh, so you only got that cuz you 2v1. Like, oh, you had to 2v1 us, didn't you?" Or like, that's pretty lame for you to 2v1. That's the point of a 1v1v1. Is that
Yeah,
whoever has the objective that's wanted, whether it's a garrison or what was orbs or what was the dinosaur event or what is now, SMC, they get 2v1'd. If you have SMC, you should expect to get 2v1'd. If you're on your garrison map, you should expect to get 2v1'd. Bottom line. Like, and anyone who expects otherwise, you're just not, being reasonable. It's not a
yeah.
reasonable expectation to not get 2v1'd.
Yeah, and like and so it's like it's just weird sometimes like getting those kind of it doesn't happen often, so everyone just so
I
everyone
get a
knows. It
lot of
doesn't
tells, bro. I get a
you
lot.
well
I
that's
get a,
you're
but
indie though.
I don't respond to like I don't respond to tells anymore. Like I talk to the people I want to talk to, but most people are either talking shit to me, like flirting with me, or sending me like sexual things, and it's like it's just
Yeah.
like too much nonsense. Like so, I don't respond to tells. Like I just ignore them completely. Like I have them
Oh,
off on my main chat, and I have a completely separate whisper tab. So people that whisper me often, even in the guild, that like you ignore my whispers. Like I don't read whispers. I just don't. Like if I'm
yeah.
gonna talk to someone, I'll send a tell out. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, I don't read whispers.
Yeah,
It's
like
too obnoxious. It's
honestly
too
for me,
obnoxious.
yeah, the only time I get them is either from like rando roamers who say some weird shit. That's it. But it's never like if it's negative. Like most of the time if it's between commanders, it's usually pretty cordial. Even like commanders that are like wild, pretty wild like God, what's his name? Uh, Commander of IV, Goyer Victress,
Oh,
the
Lectal.
Lectal.
Yeah.
Lectal being a wild guy, he's a fun dude to talk to.
He's a little
Like
crazy, but yeah.
he's a little crazy. He is crazy and a French and a Canadian Frenchman, but he is a fun guy. That's a fun guy. So like like I enjoy whenever I do fight him. I enjoy fighting him, and he whispered me, and I whispered him back, and I would have a fun time reading off what he whispered to my guild. But the main thing is like people even people most people like are pretty good in terms of like commanders and stuff like that. I usually would not get somebody who would be like saying something that's usually it's a roamer or something like that who is a little bit too into the game,
Mm.
or something like that. That's it.
You know who we missed? Who's another large guild? Monk. Monk runs
Oh,
fifty
Monk?
fifty. Yeah, they
I'm
run
not.
pretty fat.
It's been a long time since I've seen them.
Monk runs 50-50.
The last matchup was when I saw them was like when Flux was not linked to GOM, and then there was like whatever server they were linked. What server they're on right now? You know?
They're on FC.
FC? Okay.
Yeah.
Like what I think it was like GM and FC were linked, so
Roar
you guys
runs
talked to them.
50-50 now. Is that true?
Roar
They
had
must have
sometimes
grown
historically
if
run,
that's the
yeah.
case. Yeah. So
They've
there's a
historically
lot
run
of good
50.
there's a lot of good large community guilds. I dig it. Like honestly,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to have a little fight club between all the large guilds. Just a little respect community there, like where we can just talk to one another and just kind of be like, yo, we're out. You wanna brawl?
Yeah.
I know you and I do it, and myself and Pugs we communicate. Me and Bullyfoot certainly do. Me and Thorn certainly do. But we should get more of these other larger community guilds involved and just have some cordial brawls.
Yeah, if they're up for it, I'm up for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're happy
I
to
mean, we're all in
listen.
the
And
same league. We're all in the same league. We're all just community guilds, so.
yeah, exactly.
But anyways, I'm going to end the interview here. Thank you so much, Riv. It was awesome, bro. It was nice to talk to you again in person
Yeah,
after so
man.
long. We send each other
It-
tells a lot in game, but it's nice to just shoot the shit with you. It's been 3 years at least since we've done that,
Yeah,
since the
since we
Alliance days. At least
yeah
three
since we
years.
sat down and talked person to person, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
bringing back old memories. I'm sure
Bringing
at
back
some
old
point.
memories for sure. And
Yeah,
100% plan for sometime in December for a round table.
sure.
You, me, Bullyfoot, Thornton, Voodoo, Dark Cloud, and I got the Sox commander next week, the Jade commander the week after, and then there's two. People are asking in Twitch, how about some female commanders? I wasn't really skewing one way or the other, or the other, like saying only male or only female, but it's an interesting request. So I have found, and it wasn't hard, believe it or not, two female commanders that actually stream. So I'm going to interview them. I don't know if I'll do it back to back, but I'll interview them as well. And I have another SA South American guild I'm going to interview, and then a C guild I'm going to interview. So I have enough commanders for like the next 5, 6, 7
Nice.
weeks, but I'll probably do a round table around the holidays. I won't get through the entire list, but it'll be a round table of all the commanders up to that point, which will probably be around 8 or 9.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear more from small group commanders because my experience again is just like from history being from small to big, but I would like to know what the mentality it is from small guild commanders these days. Aside from me talking to them personally, like I want to hear those kinds of things because it'd be fun to see that kind of viewpoint.
All right.
Yeah.
I interviewed Voodoo last week. Voodoo from
Yeah, I
Beers.
listened to that. Yeah, that was a really
Yeah,
interesting conversation because,
it was good
again,
because we got an interesting perspective from a small guild commander as well as a South American guild commander. So that was cool.
yeah,
As far as European commanders from EU, I don't know many. I know like a couple on SFR, but I don't know many otherwise. So, or not even SFR. I don't even know where my fucking alt is over there. It's not. It's not on SFR. It's on. Where the fuck is it? Hold on. On, yeah, FSP. I'm sorry, it's on FSP. So I know a couple commanders from FSP, but beyond that, I don't know any European commanders over there. So if anyone wants to put me in touch with any EU commanders, I'm happy to interview. But I have an entire fucking list of just NA commanders that I gotta get through. Like
oh
even if
yeah,
you do this count right here, like, and say you take out the 10 that don't play anymore, there's still so many commanders I gotta get through just on NA that I have enough players to interview for like the next fucking year.
yeah. But someone mentioned in the chat, Ash and Lays. Those are probably ones to probably talk to because they put down footage, on YouTube a ton of
Hmm.
times. So
I mean,
I
if
think
they'd
it'd
be
be
willing to
interesting.
talk, so have them reach out. Happy to like interview anybody. But yeah. But Riv, thank you again, my friend.
Yeah.
It was a
Thanks,
pleasure.
man.
It was honestly a pleasure. I can't wait till we face each other again. Will we face each other next week?
Yeah, but I'll be on vacation. So,
Oh no.
so starting the next week,
I'm actually I'm
tomorrow.
I'm actually traveling next week too. I'm traveling next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So,
Oh, cool.
is anyone from your guild gonna tag up?
Oh yeah, there's my guild's gonna tech up, so
Okay,
that's
so
next
maybe
week.
we can fight like. So it's gonna be us. It's gonna be DR, SOR, and JQ, right?
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
you'll be yeah, so
Maybe
like
we could do a I'll see if the Jade commander. Maybe we can do Jade, Flux, and OP on a map and
maybe
just
yeah.
fucking brawl. What do you
Yeah,
guys
talk
think?
to depending on yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, talk to the folks that will be commanding on those days. So like this weekend, so tomorrow and Saturday, Seraphim commands. Monday and Wednesday is Tegan, and then I'll return Friday. So
Okay.
so yeah, any of those people, I'll message you.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean, if they want to,
depending.
if they don't want to, they don't. Whatever.
Yeah,
It's
it's up to
not a
them.
big
It's up
deal.
to them. They are the
Yeah, yeah,
commanders, not
yeah,
me.
yeah. I mean, we have an entire week, so there'll be plenty of opportunity
Yeah, I
to
mean
just
they're up
brawl.
for it. They want to learn more. So it's really good.
I was actually really
Yeah.
impressed with um the commander that reached out.
Tegan,
Tegan.
yes, Tegan,
Oh, is it Tegan or
Tegan,
Tegan?
yeah,
Tegan.
Tegan. Yep.
Yeah, she was she came across very came across very competent. Let me put it that way. For only have commanded for her fifth time,
She's a super fast
and
learner.
then she was very um, knowledgeable. She had a knowledge base to start, and then she had a curiosity that you like to see in a commander that's learning.
Yeah.
So she's very open to just listening.
Yeah,
Um,
when
it
I
was
see, yeah, I just want to quickly add that like when I see, I'm sure you do this too. Like when you know someone's commander material is when they have that spark, and the
right,
spark can be like
right.
just that huge curiosity and wanting to keep doing it. So,
And I mean, it takes
yeah,
some courage to ask the person you just fought, "Hey, do you mind giving me
yeah,
feedback?" So, I have nothing but respect for her as a commander, quite frankly. Like I respect all commanders generally, but I have a little bit more respect for her. After her reaching out and talking with me, we only spoke for about like 30, 45 minutes. I don't know what, maybe she found some of my stuff useful, maybe none of it. I don't know, but
she definitely
I
did.
I think I came across with a lot more respect for her, especially as a newish commander. Like I was impressed. Let me put it that way. I was impressed.
Yeah, and we
I was
do. Yeah,
impressed.
like I know we're like getting near the end, but what we mentioned like that some of the things we do for training for those who don't know, like the guilds generally do, video review and stuff like that. I go an extra mile. I actually do similar to what sportscasters do, is where I watch a recording and I draw over the screen and record that as a video, and then go over like what I see during the fights and stuff. And that's what I do to help, aside from talking to them personally, train commanders and stuff. So, but yeah, so like there's a lot of, like um, like I said, I love seeing new commanders. So I want to help any way I can, for at least especially for my guild. So yeah, props. I'm grateful that you felt that way. So
Yeah,
thanks,
yeah,
Indo.
she was great. Nothing but respect. But all great things must come to an end. So you have a
Yep,
lovely evening, my friend. It was
you too,
honestly,
man.
sincerely from the bottom of my heart, it was great to catch up with you. It was
It
great to
definitely
catch
same
up
here,
with you
man.
for after so long. So I look forward to seeing, Flux on the battlefield. You guys are a tough fight. I love fighting you guys. It's never easy. I got to work for every single W that we get. They're back and forth often. So um, tons of fun
Yeah,
fighting you guys. Can't wait to see you guys on the battlefield next. And I am holding you to the round table close to the
I will.
holidays.
I'll definitely. I'm happy to join in. So
And
again,
I put this out for all the other commanders too, is that probably coming into next year, I'm gonna do like co-hosting for some other commanders down the road. Either if we start getting into secondary commanders within guilds, so if we do interview Tegan, I'll co-host Tegan with you, something
mhm.
along those lines. But I'm putting that offer out to you too if you want to co-host into the
Yeah.
future.
I'd be
Um,
happy to do it anytime because like
awesome.
I enjoy talking to people, so that's my favorite thing. So again, man, I amazing night. I enjoy talking to you as always, and it's just like old times. So I
Yep,
appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely. You
All right,
have a lovely evening, my friend. Good night.
you too. Have a good night.
Take care. That was an awesome interview. I really, you know, I gotta be honest. Like, I really, really enjoyed. I'm sure you guys can tell. Like, I enjoy just talking to other commanders, and I think part of that is just my passion for this fucking game. Like, I love this game. I love commanding. I love pugmanding, and I love talking to these players. Commanders specifically, who share that passion. Like you can tell, right? You can tell that these guys love the game just as much. And it's been like that consistently. When we interviewed Thorn, you could tell his love and passion for the game. When we went to Dark Cloud, you could hear it in his voice, the love and passion for the game. When he interviewed Bullyfoot, you could hear his passion, his emotion, his rage sometimes about this game. When we interviewed Voodoo, you could hear that passion and love for the game. Riv, clearly, we talked for almost 3 hours, not even almost 3 fucking hours about commanding, like just talking about commanding and each other's thoughts and feedback and opinion and what changes we'd like to see. Like, and the love is there, and I hope ANET appreciates that you have commanders of these large and small and medium-sized community guilds that are just out there to share that love and passion with the rest of the World v World community. So, I hope ANET appreciates what they got here, and they really give it this game mode the time and attention it deserves, because we certainly do, right? Commanding at times is work. Commanding at times is a lot of work. And commanding at times is not always fun, but we still do it for the community. We still do it for our love for this game. We still do it because it's important to us. So, you know, it's something that I hope we can all appreciate, including in it. I'm down to interview anybody, quite frankly. I'm pretty booked up now until January, maybe even February, of commanders that have either reached out to me or I've reached out to. But if anyone has someone that is interested in getting on here, please have them reach out to me in Discord. Happy to schedule them in. But I have commanders lined up for the next 7 or 8 weeks already. Um, and then one of those weeks is going to be a roundtable just before Christmas holiday. So the current commander list will probably take us into next year. But I will have some openings probably end of January, beginning of February. And I want to make this a weekly thing for us. I have a separate section in the videos of my Twitch, so you can see them all there. I'll probably upload them to YouTube at some point too. A lot of people have actually asked me to upload them to YouTube from Twitch, so I'll probably get around to doing that as well, just so it has that additional, exposure, I guess. I wasn't planning on it, but like literally 12 or 13 people have asked me to upload them to YouTube, so I'll probably do that as well. But including the roundtable, we have enough weekly content till beginning mid January, which is pretty fucking cool. And it's all different types of guilds. A couple small guilds, South American guilds, OCX guilds, C guilds, a couple, female commanders. Not saying that, male or female either way, but someone asked, and we found a couple who are interested in talking to us. So a couple of female commanders. I think it's interesting to get different perspective from different people. We have another South American guild. But yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. I'm actually surprised no one's done this before in this type of format. But I love it. It's great talking to all these commanders. I have so much respect for them, and hopefully that respect is contagious. And hopefully not only just the general World v World community, but also all the guilds involved and not involved can see that you can be a hardcore competitor with someone and still respect them, and still treat them with some politeness and dignity and basic human respect. So hopefully these things become a big thing, and that respect is contagious, because at the end of the day, it's our World v World community, and we shouldn't be shitting where we eat, quite frankly. Let's not let it degrade like the GVGers let it degrade. But that being said, you all have a lovely, lovely, lovely evening. I wish you all, a good night, and we'll catch each other tomorrow for reset. I'm going to raid this individual who's streaming World v World. Um,